Chapter 175. Song Yao stood in the middle of the room and said, "You guys hide to the side." Lei Xingfeng, Miao Ling, and Xiao Dia all hid to the side. The temperature in the room dropped rapidly. No matter how many furs they had, they were still shivering from the cold. Lei Xingfeng said, "Activate your defense. If not, we won't be able to block it." His body started to emit streaks of lightning. Instantly, he felt much better, but this would consume a large amount of Lun Yin Li. Of course, he couldn't care about that now. Miao Ling directly buried herself in a pile of furs, not even daring to show her head. As for Xiao Dia, it was even worse. Even if he activated his defense, he was still shivering from the cold, like a leaf in autumn. His face was completely pale. He shivered and said, He. Lei Xingfeng said, "Him? Who?" Xiao Dia tried to calm himself down and said, "Him. Damn it." Lei Xingfeng was speechless. He said, "Sai, don't force yourself. Use the furs and learn from senior sister Miao. At least you won't be so cold." Xiao Dia rolled his eyes and said, No. Lei Xingfeng said, "No furs?" Xiao Dia shivered and said, No, nothing." Lei Xingfeng scolded, "Damn, don't say one word at a time." Xiao Dia was already so cold that he wanted to die. His face was bitter. His body was shivering. He looked at Lei Xingfeng with an aggrieved look. Lei Xingfeng was speechless. He said, All right, you're cold. You didn't do it on purpose." Although Xiao Dia was so cold that he couldn't speak clearly, it didn't stop him from nodding furiously. His face revealed a relieved look. He was indeed stuttering due to the cold. He wasn't purposely teasing him. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Xiao Dia, don't just stand there. Maybe you won't feel so cold if you move around a bit." Xiao Dia was very obedient and immediately began to jump. At this time, he was like a big frog. One had to know that his whole body was wrapped in extremely thick fur, just like a match wrapped in a thick layer of cotton balls. His feet seemed to be installed with springs, and he jumped very quickly with each jump. Lei Xingfeng was dumbfounded. He couldn't help but say, F***CK? Is this even possible? Needless to say, Xiao Dia jumped wildly for a while, but he actually recovered. Lei Xingfeng actually couldn't stand the cold either. He thought about it and understood. As long as he moved, he could indeed resist the cold. He also jumped up. The two of them were like two zombies jumping around on the spot. Kacha, cracks began to appear on the ice wall. Although it hadn't split open yet, it was enough to make one's heart skip a beat. Lei Xingfeng and Xiao Dia were dancing happily when they saw a crack spreading from the bottom to the top of the wall. Lei Xingfeng pointed and shouted, "Quick, it's cracked!" Traces of extremely cold air spread in through the crack. Xian Zhaoluan quickly wet the fur. In an instant, he flashed to the front of the crack and reached out to cover it. Because the fur had just been wet, the ice wall that the fur came into contact with immediately adhered to it. A layer of water was poured on it, and the crack was immediately blocked. The ice crack continued to spread upwards. Mad Eagle had already flown up, and the animal skin in his hand was also plastered to it. The soul-stirring process of patching the hole began. The group of people were like ants on a hot pan, circling around the room. When they saw a crack in the ice, they went up to fix it. Fortunately, it was mostly the back wall and the ice wall near the corridor that had problems. The other two ice walls didn't have much of a problem. Lei Xingfeng said while jumping, "If we knew this would happen when we were building the igloos, as long as we built an igloos above, below, left, right, front, and back, the room in the middle would be the safest." Xian Zhaoluan said, "Damn, who knew that the extreme cold this time would be so strong? In the past, these igloos were enough to resist." Chui Zi said, "There's still a little bit of time left. It's going to be over soon. The extreme cold at this time is very strong. Everyone be careful. In response to Chui Zi's warning, no one dared to be careless. They all focused and stared at the two ice walls that were most prone to problems. Suddenly, a loud cracking sound came from the corridor, followed by a sharp whistling sound. That was the extremely cold air from outside pouring in. Then there was a continuous cracking sound, followed by a roar, and the corridor collapsed. Xian Zhaoluan listened attentively. He suddenly breathed a sigh of relief and said, "It's not our corridor that collapsed. It should be Senior Song. The opening in front of us cracked and collapsed." Lei Xingfeng said, "Fortunately, Senior came in from the other side. If he had come in from outside our door, he couldn't help but shiver. At least 2 or 3 people in this room would have died. Even he might not have been able to survive." Song Qiao laughed dryly. "Ha! I was panicking. If I hadn't been so decisive, I would have become a human-shaped ice sculpture outside." Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. "You were lucky." He secretly rejoiced. Song Qiao said, "Don't think too much. Let's get through this." Ka-cha! 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 Countless sounds came from above. Everyone's face changed. Even Song Qiao's face began to turn pale. He shouted, "Damn it, it's above us!" Several people's feet left the ground. They held large pieces of animal skin in their hands, ready to spread them over at any time. If the roof collapsed, it would be difficult for everyone except Song Qiao to survive. The cracking sound was accompanied by the sharp whistling of the wind. The whole room was completely silent. Only the heavy breathing of a few people could be heard. All of a sudden, all sounds disappeared. No matter if it was the sharp whistling of the wind or the continuous kacha sounds, all of the sounds that filled their ears disappeared. In an instant, it was as if they had arrived at a foreign place. Xian Feng and Xiao Dia had both stopped moving. Xiao Dia looked at everyone in confusion. "Did I freeze to death?" he muttered to himself. Then he heard Chweezy and Futa cheer. "Wow, the cold is over. Ha ha, it's over." Every extreme cold was a natural process of elimination for the Aboriginals. If they couldn't survive, they would die. In the eyes of the Aboriginals, this was a very common thing. Of course, if they could survive the extreme cold, it was definitely a matter worth celebrating. Lei Xingfeng sat down, cold sweat dripping down his body. "Damn it, I won't come here again," he said. Xiao Dia also said, "Yeah, if you don't come again, you'll scare us to death." Miao Ling poked her head out from the pile of fur. "I won't come here again, either. Even if I didn't die of fear, I'll freeze to death." Xian Zhaoluan smiled bitterly. "All right, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have brought you here." Lei Xingfeng immediately smiled. "Senior brother, I'm not blaming you. We've gained a lot here. It's just a bit cold, a bit scary. Ha ha." Song Qiao laughed. "This place is still worth coming here. There are many things here that are quite rare. Some of them are materials for secret doors. It's hard to get them if you don't come here. Most of the high-level sages who come here are here for these materials. Even a monarch like me had to take the risk." Lei Xingfeng suddenly thought of a problem. That's strange. The cold weather, why did it suddenly disappear?" Chui Zi smiled and said, "This is one of the local specialties. The extreme cold weather ends very quickly and can completely disappear in a few breaths of time. As for the reason, we don't know. After the extreme cold, the weather will immediately warm up and the temperature will rise very quickly." Lei Xingfeng asked, "When can we get out?" Chui Zi said, 10 more minutes. We'll be out soon." Lei Xingfeng said, "Ah, so fast." Song Qiao said, "Don't be surprised. It's just like this. It's cold mainly because of the wind. Once the wind stops, the temperature rises immediately." Lei Xingfeng nodded. All right, I'll go. The room is too suffocating. Xian Zhaoluan said, let's wait a little longer. At this moment, the temperature in the room started to rise rapidly. The dying flames in the brazier started to burn fiercely. The remaining oil would also started to burn faster. Very soon, Miao Ling crawled out from the pile of fur. Even she could not take it anymore. Her forehead was covered in sweat. She said, I really want to take a bath. I'm going to stink. Hong Jie comforted her. Don't worry. You'll be able to take a bath soon. After waiting for a while, Xian Zhaoluan said, all right, we can go out now. As he spoke, he punched the ice wall that sealed the door. With a loud bang, the ice on top of it shattered and shook for a bit. The ice wall was left with a steel frame, which he kept into his hidden Luan space. Only then did he walk out of the room and into the corridor. Lei Xingfeng followed. Song Qiao laughed. Let me see where the corridor collapsed. He walked out of the room as well. The ice wall in the corridor was full of cracks. Some of them were quite thick. They could already see the outside. The right side of the corridor had completely collapsed. Even the steel frame was completely twisted. The floor was covered in broken ice, covered in a thick layer of frost. When Hammerhead came out, he held his precious hammer and directly smashed it on the ice wall in the corridor. Suddenly, the entire ice wall shattered like glass. In the ultra-low temperature, just now, the ice wall had begun to become brittle. It could not withstand a single blow from the hammer. Their field of vision suddenly widened. Lei Xingfeng pointed to the courtyard. Damn, what's that? Chapter 176. There were 3 running ice sculptures. One of them was on the wall of the courtyard, one was on the ground, and the last was almost at the end of the corridor. Not bad, Song Qiao said. You followed me so far. Are these 3 living with you? Lei Xingfeng asked. Yes, there are 7 of them, Song Qiao said. All 3 of them are 9th ring sages. Not bad. They chased me so far. I almost succeeded. He didn't care about these people at all. Lei Xingfeng felt a chill in his heart. Senior Song, are you close with them? Familiar? Song Qiao asked. Kid, I'm not close with them. In fact, it doesn't matter if we're close or not. At that point, it's better to run for your life. You can't care about anything else. If you don't want to die, you have to run faster. Lei Xingfeng jumped onto the ice wall. There were many ice sculptures in all the courtyards. He didn't know how many people had died. Xian Zhaoluan also jumped onto the ice wall. It seems a lot of people died this time. Jean Dia followed. It's good to have more. Lei Xingfeng didn't understand. What do you mean? Jean Dia said, in a few days, it'll be the best time to collect materials. At that time, outsiders won't be able to come in. One less person means less competition. Isn't that good? Lei Xingfeng said, yes, I won't go out for now. After I finish refining Lei Yin, I'll think about going out to mine. Ha ha. Xian Zhaoluan said, there's another place besides the one we went to last time. I need another kind of material. A phone. I think you're quite good at mining. Last time, you got more than all of us combined. Song Qiao was surprised. What? A phone is that good? Jean Dia said, that's right. Anyway, I can't compare to him. He's really amazing. The way Song Yao looked at Lei Xingfeng changed. He said, some people are naturally sensitive to mineral deposits. Little guy, I plan to go to a good place to look for mineral deposits. Come with me. Lei Xingfeng said, no, unless I finish refining Lei Yin and advance to 6-ringed. Song Yao thought about it and said, fine, I'll wait for you. It's not urgent anyway. Xian Zhaoluan asked, Senior Song, where do you plan to go? Ice Cave Plains. Song Qiao laughed. Xian Zhaoluan was stunned. He said, well, we can't go there. It's too far. Jean Dia was also stunned. He said, "You can only stay in the ice cave plains for a short period of time, no more than 20 days. And you have to wait until the cold weather passes. If you leave now, it'll take you at least 40 days to get there. You only have a few days to dig. Once the wind picks up, you'll have to leave. A few days isn't enough time to dig." Song Qiao said, "You can't do it, but that doesn't mean I can't. I can reach the ice cave plains in a few minutes." Xian Zhaoluan immediately understood. "You want to open a secret door?" Song Qiao laughed. "Of course. Why wouldn't I use a secret door?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "Of course you can use a secret door." He cursed inwardly. All the miners here were sages. What was a monarch like Song Qiao doing here? Lei Xingfeng said, "So it's like that? That's fine. When I finish refining Lei Yin and advance to the next level, I'll go with you. But I have one condition." Song Qiao said, "What condition?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Take the others with you." Song Qiao said without hesitation, "No problem." Xian Zhaoluan and the others were overjoyed. The ice cave plains was an excellent place to mine ores, but it was too far away from Hanya Castle. Not many sages could enter. Only monarchs could enter easily and have the time to mine ores. There were precious ores of all kinds and in large quantities. Xian Feng looked at the ice sculptures. His heart was filled with emotions. A ninth-ringed true body expert had died here without a sound. Furthermore, he was frozen to death. No one would believe him if he said that he didn't come here. At this time, a large group of locals appeared. They began to clean up Hanya Castle, mainly dealing with the ice sculptures. With a hammer strike, the ice sculptures were completely shattered. They were thrown into carts and buried outside. Jean Dia said, "After each extreme cold, there are always hundreds of deaths. This place is dangerous." Song Yao said, "This is not a bad place. Some places, not to mention 180 enlightened masters. There are even thousands of them. That kind of place is dangerous. However, I believe your elders will not let you go." Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "What kind of place is so dangerous?" Song Qiao laughed. "Little guy, it's not that I'm looking down on you, but with your strength, there's only one word for it. Death. There won't be any luck, so you don't have to ask around. You don't have the right to go." Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. "All right, I'll go back and refine Lei Yin." He knew he was nothing in the eyes of a monarch. His level and strength were too low. Song Qiao said, "Yes, hurry up. You should be able to finish in 40 days. Xian Feng was also worried. If it wasn't for the lightning stamp, he would have already advanced. With a true ring body, one would be considered a high-level true master. Their strength was completely different, and back in his original world, a true ring body would be considered a powerful expert. Even large sects wouldn't dare to provoke such an expert. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Your room is finished. Go find another one. I'll have some people renovate it in the next few days." Lei Xingfeng nodded and turned to find an empty room. Lei Yin continued to refine. The process he had stopped because of the extreme cold. Lei Xingfeng took out the bone. The red gold threads in the 9 orifices had already been arranged. The next step was to make 3 small objects and insert them into the 3 orifices. The 3 objects weren't complicated, but they required 2 types of materials. Fortunately, the materials had already been purified, so all he had to do was take them out and start working. Lei Xingfeng followed the instructions in the Star Python record, carefully making them bit by bit. Lei Xingfeng didn't understand the principles behind them, but he could copy them according to the instructions. The Star Python record had records of how to make them, which made things much easier for him. The 3 objects were called ear strands. After making them, they were inserted into the 3 largest orifices. Miraculously, the strands didn't touch the red gold threads on the orifices. After inserting them, they floated within. Lei Xingfeng didn't care about that. After inserting the 3 ear strands, he began to make the other 6 orifices. 6 strings of extremely thin beads, with some patterns carved on them. This was a delicate job. Lei Xingfeng busied himself for a few days before he was done. After checking it carefully a few times, he inserted the strings of beads into the 6 orifices. Then came the last step, which was to use his own lightning to activate Lei Yin. Arcs of electricity jumped on the surface of the lightning stamp. Xian Feng stretched out his hands, palms facing each other, the lightning stamp floating between his 2 hands. Arcs of electricity connected his 2 hands to the lightning stamp, letting out a buzzing sound. A dazzling light flashed. Mad Eagle, Tiger Love, and Jean Daya, who were sitting at the side, narrowed their eyes. The 3 of them had been guarding Lei Xingfeng ever since he came in, preventing others from interfering. Lei Xingfeng's body also emitted a faint blue light. His entire being and Lei Yin's radiance complemented each other. Lei Yin let out a series of trembling sounds. Gradually, Lei Yin was like a heart thumping. That dazzling light flickered. Lei Xingfeng's breathing began to become heavy. He stared at Lei Yin. A faint connection went from Lei Yin to the bottom of his heart. Lei Xingfeng knew that he had succeeded. From this reaction, it was all recorded in the Star Python record. According to the Star Python record, the next step was to integrate Lei Yin into his body. This was the most important step. It was very mysterious. If it was based on the knowledge of his previous life, it would be completely incomprehensible. However, in this life, it was a very normal thing. Lei Yin began to spin rapidly. Lei Xingfeng's 9 orifices also shot out strands of lightning, which resonated with Lei Yin's palms. Gradually, Lei Xingfeng's expression became more and more serious. His 2 palms began to close together, as if it took a lot of effort. Every time the 2 palms were about to close together, they would be pushed away by a huge force. After failing several times, Lei Xingfeng continued to try. Finally, Lei Xingfeng's 2 palms suddenly came together, as if he was praying to Buddha. Jean Daya and the other 2 immediately widened their eyes. After the refining of Lei Yin was completed, it was as big as an egg. After Lei Xingfeng's palms came together, from the outside, it was impossible to put anything in his palms. In other words, Lei Yin had disappeared. Lei Xingfeng's mouth slightly raised. The joy on his face could not be concealed. It's done. At this point, Lei Yin was completely refined and integrated into his body. The most amazing thing was that Lei Xingfeng's body originally had a Lei Yin, which was passed down to him by Elder Thunderstorm. When the refined Lei Yin entered his body, it swallowed the thunderstorm's Lei Yin in the blink of an eye. That kind of insufferably domineering aura made Lei Xingfeng a little surprised. Jean Daya said, "You succeeded? How does it feel?" "Hee, this is the first time I've seen such a method of condensing a seal." Lei Xingfeng was silent for a moment. He was still adjusting the position of Lei Yin. According to the records of the Star Python records, the best position to place Lei Yin in the body was the heart. He actually had some doubts in his heart. If this thing was placed in the heart, would it cause his heart to explode? But when he placed Lei Yin in the heart, he suddenly felt full of energy. His whole body felt indescribably good. Holy sh*t. This is so King good. Good. Chapter 177. At this moment, Lei Xingfeng was truly impressed by the ancient cultivators. He didn't know how that ancient thunder cultivator had come up with something so heaven-defying. With just this Lei Yin, he now had the confidence to challenge a 7-ringed master. Jean Daya, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love all smiled. Lei Xingfeng's growth was their greatest reward. Lei Xingfeng closed his eyes. He could clearly feel Lei Yin. Only now did he understand the use of the 9 chakras on Lei Yin. When Luan Yin energy entered through the 3 largest chakras and exited through the 6 smaller chakras, Luan Yin energy would be converted into Yin energy. In the blink of an eye, his body began to rapidly convert, and large amounts of Yin energy were produced. Lei Xingfeng was already on the verge of breaking through. Once Lei Yin entered his body and devoured the Lei Yin left behind by Elder Thunderstorm, he could no longer suppress his breakthrough. However, he didn't hold back anymore. He went with the flow, and in less than an hour, he successfully became a 6-ringed sage. When all the Luan Yin energy in his body was converted into Yin energy, Lei Xingfeng's entire body was like a ball of light. Countless arcs of electricity shot out from his body. The greenish-white electric arcs expanded and contracted nonstop, making crackling sounds as his body slowly floated off the ground. Jean Daya and the others quickly retreated. They all understood that Lei Xingfeng had broken through. They couldn't help but admire him. He had broken through just like that without any delay. Thinking about how difficult it had been for them to break through, they all felt bitter. The 3 of them had all relied on the Yin rings to reach their current level. If they wanted to break through again, it would be extremely difficult. There was almost no hope left. Lei Xingfeng forced himself to calm down and did his best to circulate his Yin energy. At this moment, his entire body was filled with newly converted Yin energy. Every time he circulated it, the Yin energy would enter through the 3 large chakras and exit through the 6 smaller chakras. The Yin energy would become purer. Lei Xingfeng quickly discovered this secret and was overjoyed. He knew that the process of breaking through from a 6-ringed sage to a 9-ringed sage was the process of purifying Yin energy. His Lei Yin could help him achieve this goal. After circulating it 9 times, Lei Xingfeng felt that it was about time. Circulating it any more would be too much for his body. He opened his eyes and smiled. "Haha, I did it." Jean Daya said, "All right, let's eat something." The 3 of them cooked a large pot of stew, large pieces of meat, various dried vegetables, and mushrooms. After the extreme cold, everyone knew how to cook stew. It was too easy to learn. It was convenient and delicious. Mad Eagle smiled. "Yes, a large pot of stew. It's your specialty. Let's see how it goes." Lei Xingfeng only just realized that he had been starving for a long time. He didn't try to be modest. He took out a copper basin and tore up a piece of flatbread. Then he poured the steaming hot stew over it and started eating. At this moment, he didn't care if it tasted good or bad, as long as it could fill his stomach. Jean Daya and the others giggled as they watched Lei Xingfeng eat like crazy. They were already full. This pot of stew was cooked for him. In less than half an hour, Lei Xingfeng had devoured 3 pieces of flatbread and a large pot of stew. After eating, Lei Xingfeng said, "I'm going to take a bath and then sleep." Jean Daya and the others got up and left the room. Lei Xingfeng took out a wooden basin, boiled water, and took a bath. Once he was done, he fell asleep. He was too tired. He slept until the 3rd day. Lei Xingfeng woke up to find Song Qiao and Xian Zhaoluan in the room, besides Jean Daya and the others. He got up and said, "Why are you all here?" Song Qiao smiled. "I heard you advanced, so I came to see you." Xian Zhaoluan said, "This is a critical juncture. You need to convert pure Yin energy to prevent it from becoming unstable. In particular, you can't have a trace of Luan Yin energy in your body." He gave a few pointers, but he didn't know that after Xian Feng obtained the ancient lightning stamp, there was no such problem. As long as he succeeded in the conversion, even if his talent wasn't good, he would still be able to advance smoothly, and his talent was unbelievably good. There wouldn't be any problems. Lei Xingfeng smiled. I know, there's no problem. Song Qiao said, don't remind him. He's already stabilized his sixth ring body. His talent is better than yours. Xin Zhaoluan smiled bitterly. His talent was already very good, but compared to Lei Xingfeng, there was still a big gap. With Song Qiao's insight, he could understand everything with a single glance. Lei Xingfeng said, I still need to cultivate the chaos wheel. At the very least, I need to learn how to use it. Song Qiao smiled. I know, so when I heard you advanced, I came to give you some guidance. You shouldn't be against it. Lei Xingfeng was overjoyed and repeatedly thanked him. What a joke! As long as Lei Xingfeng wasn't an idiot, he wouldn't refuse a true monarch's guidance. This was too rare. Song Qiao waved his hand. You don't need to thank me. I'm just helping you master the chaos. So you can go to the ice cave plains. Lei Xingfeng nodded. All right, it's to get to the ice cave plains faster. Ha ha. Song Qiao said, actually, I haven't mastered the chaos wheel. I've tried it a few times and even modified it, but it's still not very smooth. After all, it's a lightning-type weapon. In fact, at the true monarch realm, there isn't much of a difference in attributes. You can use any type of weapon, but the best weapon to use is the one you've been familiar with since childhood. The chaos wheel isn't my attribute weapon, so no matter how much I tinker with it, it still doesn't work. Xin Zhaoluan smiled. So you used it to exchange for purple crystals. Song Qiao smiled. Yes. No matter how good it is, it can only be looked at. It's better to exchange it for something useful. Lei Xingfeng took out the chaos wheel and played with it for a while. How do I get it? It's simple, Song Qiao said. Use your attribute to communicate with it. Everyone present, including Xin Zhaoluan, didn't have any elemental weapons. These types of weapons were extremely difficult to make, and most sages didn't make them for cultivation. Instead, they focused on leveling up. Most of the weapons were ordinary goods. Even if they were made with better metals, they definitely weren't elemental weapons. They were also curious about how to use elemental weapons. Lei Xingfeng thought of the method he'd used to capture Lei Yin. Suddenly, he had an idea. He clasped his hands together and held the chaos wheel in his palms. Suddenly, he separated his palms. Arcs of electricity flashed and struck the chaos wheel. In an instant, the chaos wheel was suspended between his hands. Song Qiao's eyes widened in surprise. This wasn't how he'd tested it before. He didn't think it could be done this way. Crackling electricity struck the chaos wheel. In an instant, the chaos wheel emitted bursts of green smoke. Song Qiao saw clearly that this was something he'd added in order to use the chaos wheel. It was destroyed by the electricity, turning into smoke and disappearing. Song Qiao couldn't help but rub his forehead. Even if he was a monarch, what he'd done was indeed very childish. It was obvious that the modifications he'd made were completely useless. After being stimulated by the electricity, the chaos wheel immediately got rid of the modifications and returned to its original state. Compared to the ancient cultivators, his methods were far inferior. Lei Xingfeng realized that the method he'd used to capture Lei Yin was the correct one. After receiving his lightning, the chaos wheel began to transform. Large amounts of lightning formed from Yinli poured into the chaos wheel. At that moment, Lei Xingfeng was inwardly shocked. Fortunately, Lei Yin was constantly sending Yinli. The more Yinli he used, the more Yinli Lei Yin could generate. It was as if he had an extra generator. The faster Yinli was consumed, the more Yinli Lei Yin could replenish it. With Lei Yin's help, Lei Xingfeng was very confident. No matter how much Yinli he used, he was confident he could take the chaos wheel. Following the crackling of electricity, the chaos wheel split into three, still suspended between his hands. Lei Xingfeng's palms shot out even more electricity, forming flashing arcs of electricity. One after another, the chaos will completely dispelled the things Song Qiao had added. Song Qiao couldn't help but blush. He smacked his lips and whispered, my actions were unnecessary. Xi and Xiaolun looked on enviously. One divided into three, he whispered, this weapon can be combined. A Feng's luck is really good. He actually found such an outstanding weapon. There's no point in being envious. Song Qiao said, this thing has been in my hands for at least 80 years. Look, it's not even as good as your junior brother. He only had it for a few days, but he can already control it. Kacha! Bang! The chaos wheel was originally 3 pieces, but after Lei Xingfeng's continuous supply of lightning, it suddenly split again. This time, even Song Qiao was surprised. He'd never thought that the chaos wheel could split into so many pieces, from 3 to 9. Upon closer inspection, Song Qiao realized that there were 3 large pieces with 6 smaller pieces. Simply put, each large piece had 2 smaller pieces. Lei Xingfeng suddenly felt something strange. A thought entered his mind, and in an instant, he understood what the chaos wheel was all about. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. This thing was inconceivable. It was definitely an attribute weapon with both offense and defense. Although he hadn't tested it yet, he already knew how powerful it was. After the chaos wheel split into 9 pieces, Lei Xingfeng had complete control over the weapon. All the things Song Qiao had added were automatically removed. The weapon was a faint sky blue, reflecting the silver arcs of electricity. It had a dangerous beauty. Xi and Xiaolun and Jean Dia couldn't help but take a step back. They had a feeling that this weapon could threaten them. Lei Xingfeng laughed. It's done. This was the 3rd time. He'd said it was done after the cold weather. The first time he'd refined and absorbed Lei Yin, the second time he'd become a 6th ring sage, and the 3rd time he'd absorbed the chaos wheel. Lei Xingfeng clasped his hands together. In an instant, the flashing arcs of electricity and the chaos wheel disappeared. Xi and Xiaolun said, the chaos wheel, where did it go? Jean Dia rubbed his eyes. The weapon disappeared. Song Qiao said, idiot, he absorbed the chaos wheel into his body. That's the power of a personal weapon. Chapter 178. Lei Xingfeng smiled. Let's go and try it out. Song Qiao was curious as well. Ever since he'd obtained the chaos wheel, he'd never used its true power. Even so, he'd kept it and even modified it. If it weren't for the fact that he wanted to trade it for purple crystals, he wouldn't have taken it out. Now that he saw Lei Xingfeng completely control it, he wanted to see just how strong it was. Xi and Xiaolun, Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love wanted to see what a personal weapon was like. Even though they were all 9th ring sages, they still didn't have a personal weapon of their own. They'd never even seen someone else use one, so their curiosity was piqued. After the cold weather, the temperature had already risen. According to Xi and Feng's estimation, the current temperature was about minus 20 degrees Celsius, which was considered warm here. Especially after the cold weather, the wind had stopped, and although it was still cold, it was already comfortable for everyone. Lei Xingfeng walked to the center of the courtyard. Everyone, back off. I've never used the chaos wheel before, so I don't know how strong it is. Just to be safe, everyone stay away from me. Song Qiao waved his hand. It's fine. Back off. Don't worry about me. With his monarch-level strength, he didn't care too much. No matter how strong the chaos wheel was, it was only controlled by a 6th ring sages. It was a joke if it thought it could threaten a monarch. Xi and Xiaolun and the others retreated as they were told. A buzzing sound rang out as everyone focused on Lei Xingfeng. A layer of lightning flashed on Lei Xingfeng's body, and a blue light flashed. With a loud bang, a large hole appeared in the ground. Apart from Song Qiao, no one could see how Lei Xingfeng attacked. They only felt that it was extremely fast. A hole with a diameter of 5 meters appeared in the steel-like ground. Xian Jiaoluan was shocked. Too fast. Song Qiao was also shocked. Not to mention the power, just the speed alone was frightening. If it was a sneak attack, this speed could easily kill a high-level sage. Xian Feng attacked once, and suddenly he pressed his hands downwards, causing a series of loud sounds to ring around his body. A total of 6 large holes appeared. The crowd could only see a flash of blue light. They couldn't even see what made the holes. Jean Dia smiled bitterly. So strong. I don't think I can block it. Kid, attack me once. Song said. He wanted to test the power of the Chaos Wheel. Xian Feng's face was filled with excitement. The power of the Chaos Wheel was out of his expectations. Even he couldn't see clearly how the Chaos Wheel attacked, but he could clearly feel how the Chaos Wheel attacked. The most important thing was that the 3 main Chaos Wheels didn't attack, but the 6 smaller Chaos Wheels. Its power was enough to satisfy him. Song Qiao asked for an attack, so Lei Xingfeng would certainly fulfill his request. A powerful expert who only defended and didn't attack. Where else could he find such a good deal? Lei Xingfeng said, Senior Song, be careful. I'm going to attack. Song Qiao said, It's okay. Don't worry. I can block it. Boom. Before Song Qiao finished speaking, Lei Xingfeng's attack had already arrived. Good. A red crystal flashed, and Lei Xingfeng's attack hit it. The red crystal flashed for a moment, then stabilized. Song Qiao took a step back, surprised by the huge impact. He couldn't help but cheer. Good. Boom. Another attack. This time, Song Qiao didn't retreat. He said, Let go. What happened next made everyone dumbfounded. It was as if there were endless thunder and lightning. The rolling thunder was deafening. Everyone's heart began to beat wildly, and they couldn't help but retreat. Boom, boom, boom. In that instant, everyone's hearts were filled with admiration. This was the F*King Chaos Wheel. Even if Song Qiao was a monarch, he was still beaten up. Of course, with his defense, Lei Xingfeng couldn't break through. However, this continuous barrage of attacks forced him to retreat. This was only the prelude. Lei Xingfeng shouted, Here comes the powerful one. In an instant, a giant ring appeared between Lei Xingfeng's hands. It was as if he was holding a hollow ring. He shouted, Go! The giant ring suddenly grew, from the size of a wheel to 3 times its original size. It flashed with a dazzling blue light and whistled as it shot out. Then another appeared between Lei Xingfeng's hands. 3 giant rings were thrown out in succession, countless flashes of lightning flashing. Song Qiao was only able to block the first attack. The second one turned his red crystal into dots of light. Song Qiao didn't even have time to activate a second round of defense. His figure flickered and disappeared. The giant ring smashed into the ice wall behind Song Qiao. The ice wall was 3 meters thick and was used as a courtyard wall. It was smashed to pieces by the giant ring. Fortunately, Lei Xingfeng discovered it quickly. His body shook violently, and the giant ring disappeared. If he had continued, it would have opened up a path in the ground. Good. Song Qiao fell from the sky. His face was a bit red. He hadn't been able to block a 6th ring sage's attack. It's not any weaker than a 9th ring sage's attack. Too powerful. It's a waste for me to keep this weapon in my hands. Jean Dia looked on, dumbfounded. After a while, he said, Damn, I didn't expect a personal weapon to be so abnormal. Its attack power is multiplied. If I had a personal weapon, I'd probably be able to block a few attacks from a monarch. That's not necessarily true. Song Qiao said, it depends on the element of the weapon. Lightning-type attacks are already extremely strong. That's why a personal weapon like this is so powerful. It's still better than not having a personal weapon. Jean Dia said, a sage-level personal weapon can't be made by oneself, but how many monarchs are willing to do so? They don't even have the time to create their own exclusive weapons. Not to mention all kinds of rare materials, they might not even be able to find a star python record for the design of an exclusive weapon. Who would be willing to take out such a precious star python record? Jean Dia was speechless. No wonder I've only heard of personal weapons. I've never seen anyone use one. Song Qiao laughed. It's the little guy's luck. I'm a loner with no disciples. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten his hands on this chaos wheel. What a pity, Xian Zhaoluan said. If I were still an 8th ring sage, I might want to find a personal weapon. Haha, forget about it now. I don't have time to waste on this. Jean Dia's eyes lit up, then dimmed. He also wanted a personal weapon, but he couldn't make one. It was the work of a monarch. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love had just reached 9th ring and were still consolidating. They didn't have such thoughts. Who would be willing to make a personal weapon for a monarch, let alone the materials? They didn't even think about it. Lei Xingfeng said, if we can find an ancient hidden Luan Hihi, we might be able to get a personal weapon. But I don't understand. Why would a sage-level cultivator have so many personal weapons? Song Qiao laughed. Song Yao laughed and said, who said that true human-level ancient cultivators all have their own weapons? Don't joke around. If it wasn't for the help of an elder, don't even think about it. Lei Xingfeng said, if there's a monarch-level hidden Luan space, we'll be rich. Song Qiao looked at him with disdain. Don't talk nonsense if you don't understand. Who said monarchs would leave behind a hidden Luan space? A monarch's hidden Luan space. Haha, you have to know, once a monarch-level expert falls, unless he has his own disciples or followers, he won't leave anything behind. And once he leaves something behind, it's the hidden Luan space, the materialized hidden Luan space. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. Huh, a hidden Luan space is a monarch's hidden Luan space. Xian Zhaoluan explained. There are many theories, but basically, that's the case. Lei Xingfeng shook his head. It's really complicated. It's not, Song Qiao said. You'll understand when you become a monarch. While they were still talking, the people next door flared up. 3 9th ring sages came through the gap in the ice wall. Which bastard broke our ice wall? One of them yelled. Lei Xingfeng and the others were stunned. They didn't expect anyone to come knocking on their door. After a while, Lei Xingfeng stepped forward. Sorry. We were just testing our moves and accidentally broke the ice wall. Also, we're not bastards. Seeing Lei Xingfeng speak so politely, Song Qiao found it funny. Of course, we're definitely not bastards, they are. He added fuel to the fire. The 3 were furious. One of them stared at Song Qiao, while the one who spoke first stared at Lei Xingfeng. With their strength, they could easily distinguish each other's levels. Of course, Song Qiao was an exception. The one who stared at Lei Xingfeng said, "Don't talk nonsense. You're a 6th ring sage. What are you talking about? Testing moves? Aren't you afraid you'll bite your tongue?" Song Qiao looked like a bad old man. He really was the one testing moves. If you don't believe me, you can try. He's a 6th ring sage, and you're a 9th ring sage. The difference is so big. Be careful not to get beaten up. Lei Xingfeng looked at Song Qiao speechlessly. This old man wanted to see the world burn. However, he was eager to try. He wanted to see if he could compete with a 9th ring sage with the chaos wheel. although Song Qiao didn't fight back. It gave him a lot of confidence. The three looked at Song Qiao in disbelief. Was he trying to get his own people killed? A sixth ring sage and a ninth ring sage. There was no need to fight. The difference was too big. Chapter 179. Xian Zhaoluan was also curious. Lei Xingfeng's attack was really scary. If he could fight against a ninth ring sage, how many attacks would he be able to take? The three people regretted it after they came over. There were 4 ninth ring sages, 1 sixth ring, and one of them was at an unknown level. They couldn't handle this kind of power. So one of them thought he had seized the opportunity and said, "I don't believe that a 6th ring sage would dare to fight me. Come, I'll stand still and let you hit me a few times. Let's see how good I am." Lei Xingfeng was secretly happy. The more careless the opponent was, the greater his chance. He pretended to be calm and said, "Really? What if I hurt you?" The three people laughed. One of them said, "If I, a ninth ring sage, get hurt by a 6th ring sage, that's because I'm too weak. I won't blame you. However, I do have a request. You can attack me as you please. Even if you injure or kill me, it'll be my fate." Yizhong suddenly felt uneasy. You'll have to take one of my attacks. And confident. My request isn't to himself. Just one attack. He increased his defense again. How's that? The entire shield glowed with a metallic light. There's such a good deal. This shield was specially made. Song Yao couldn't help but laugh. It wasn't a special weapon. He suddenly realized that Lei Xingfeng special metal wasn't a good person. It was so tough. He had set a trap even a giant axe wouldn't be able to break Lei Xingfeng's attack power. Everyone retreated. He knew how powerful it was. Yizhong's two friends also retreated to the side. They both had smiles on their faces. All his strength. They wanted to see how Yizhong would beat his opponent. One of them stood up and said, "They couldn't be blamed. In this world, no 6th ring sage could challenge a 9th ring sage and let you hit me." The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. If you dodge, no matter how monstrous someone was, if he didn't push him now, wouldn't be able to challenge someone of a higher realm. Sneered and said, "If I dodge, I lose." He continued to drive the chaos wheel. An endless stream this guy was too energy poured into it. He probably didn't expect was different. Lei Xingfeng could provide large amounts of yin according to his estimation. His Lei yin could even if Lei Xingfeng had a special weapon and increase the power of the chaos wheel. Sage. This was something he discovered when he was testing out his moves. If he stood there and let Lei Xingfeng hit him, regretful. He wouldn't have any advantage. He hadn't familiarized even himself if he was a monarch, chaos wheel, he would have to dodge for long. Lei Xingfeng's there were still many skills that he hadn't figured out. Was serious. The only moves even if he stood now were a storm of attacks. Wouldn't be able to force him to dodge. Dodged, these attacks had been careless just now. However, Yizhong stood Lei Xingfeng had he did not hesitate to activate his defense. If he dodged, he would lose. A huge metal shield. This condition coupled with his own metal attribute without restraint immediately formed an impenetrable defense. Was that his opponent this kind of defense was absolutely abnormal. Little guy, Xian Zhaoluan, Lei Xingfeng, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love. All Yizhong didn't react at all. Lei Xingfeng's thunder attribute was a direct counter to the metal attribute. But this kind of moment, his opponent's attack useless against Lei Xingfeng. Boom. In fact, it was beneficial to Lei Xingfeng. Didn't hold back at all. Lei Xingfeng, he almost laughed all his strength, and he was actually a cultivator of the metal attribute. He didn't hold back at all. He said, "Raise a blue light. Let me know when you're ready." He won't sneak up on you like a storm. In an instant, he attacked dozens of times. Moreover, he didn't stop at all. Yizhong knew that things weren't looking good when he took the first hit, because that hit made his whole body go numb. Only now did he realize that his opponent was actually a cultivator of the thunder attribute. He was immediately shocked, and before he could think of a countermeasure, countless attacks had already landed on his shield. The thick electric currents mixed with the chaos wheel, madly attacking. Xian Feng felt extremely satisfied. This kind of vending attack definitely made him feel refreshed. It was a type of extreme attack. Yizhong withstood the first few attacks. Then his shield shattered. He didn't have time to do anything else. The chaos wheel had already landed on him and sent him flying in an instant. The most terrifying thing was that Lei Xingfeng didn't stop at all. He continued to attack. He looked like he wouldn't stop until he was dead. Lei Xingfeng was such a good target. If he could make Lei Xingfeng stop, he shouted, "Attack!" A giant ring suddenly appeared between his hands. This was the main attack of the Chaos Wheel. Yizhong's two friends were shocked. They didn't think that Yizhong would be beaten so badly. The two of them rushed up from the left and right. At this moment, Lei Xingfeng's giant ring appeared. Boom! The two of them couldn't withstand the main attack of the Chaos Wheel. They were sent flying in an instant. Although it wasn't fatal, they were in a difficult situation. Yizhong shouted, "Stop!" He suddenly understood why Lei Xingfeng said, "Thank you," before he attacked. This guy was purely using him as a target. He was so stupid that he couldn't move. A giant ring disappeared between Lei Xingfeng's hands. Since the other party shouted to stop, he didn't continue. He was very happy to have this opportunity to attack. Lei Xingfeng said, "You lost." Moving to dodge meant losing. Not only did the other party dodge, but he also shouted to stop. There was nothing to say about winning or losing. Yizhong was a little disheartened. He knew that if he faced the enemy directly, even if he was restrained, he could slowly suppress the other party. The difference in level wasn't so easy to overcome. However, he was arrogant, so he didn't feel wronged at all. At this point, he was very straightforward. No one was a fool. Looking at Lei Xingfeng's strength, and with so many experts around him, it was basically certain that this little guy was a disciple of some secret sect, and his position was very high. Everyone knew in their hearts that even if they lost, they wouldn't lose anything. This was a small matter and not worth risking their lives for. Song Chao smiled. "As I expected. Afeng, if you were a 7th ring sage, you would definitely be able to face a 9th ring sage head-on. You might not necessarily win, but if you want to leave, a 9th ring sage won't be able to stop you. You're still a bit lacking. After all, you're only a 6th ring sage." Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, thank you, senior." Yizhong and the other two looked at each other. It was clear that among the people present, Lei Xingfeng treated them normally. Only this old man was treated with respect by Lei Xingfeng. This meant that this old man was very likely a monarch. Yizhong said, "And this is—" He was talking to Lei Xingfeng, but he was pointing at Song Qiao. Lei Xingfeng said indifferently, "He's a senior." Yizhong muttered to himself, with Lei Xingfeng's current level, he should be a junior to everyone present. Who knew if this senior was an existence beyond the 9th ring? He thought for a moment, then braced himself and stepped forward. "And you are." His attitude was quite respectful. Song Qiao smiled. "You're not too stupid. All right, stop guessing. I'm not a sage." Yizhong was shocked, as expected of a monarch. He thought about how arrogant he had been. Fortunately, he had lost. If he had won, it would have been difficult to clean up the mess. If he had offended a monarch, even his sect wouldn't protect him. After all, the three of them were only servants, not disciples. Yizhong and the other two immediately stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Greetings, senior." Song Chao smiled. "Ah, there's no need to be so polite. Meeting is fate. I like making friends, especially children. Ha, come, let's get to know each other. These are two of my friends, Yixinpu and Yixian. They're both 9th ring sages. Ha! They're here on orders from their sect to collect some materials," Yizhong said. Lei Xingfeng might not understand, but Xian Zhaoluan did. The three of them were friends. Why were they all surnamed Yi? Their ages and appearances were all different. There was only one possibility. They were all servants of a hidden sect. Of course, even if they were 9th ring sages, they would still have a high status in the sect. They weren't low-level servants who could be bullied. Lei Xingfeng and the others also stepped forward to register. Because Lei Xingfeng had used the chaos wheel and displayed great strength, the three's attitude towards Lei Xingfeng was better. They knew in their hearts that with the potential Lei Xingfeng had shown, he was definitely a disciple of a hidden sect. Yi Xinpu looked at Song Qiao and suddenly thought of something. His heart skipped a beat. Perhaps he could use this monarch senior? According to Lei Xingfeng's thoughts, one more friend meant one more way to get along with others. He didn't want to have another enemy, so his attitude was quite good. Yi Xinpu stepped forward. Senior Song, there's something I don't know if you know. What is it? Song Qiao asked. Chapter 180. Senior Song, have you heard of the Thousand Sound Ice Mountain? Yi Xinpu asked in a hushed voice. I do. Song Qiao nodded. There's a 10,000-year-old copper crystal mine there, Yi Xinpu said. I'm sure you know what it's used for. Xian Zhaoluan couldn't help but look surprised. A large copper crystal mine? Are you kidding? How could something like that form a large deposit? Copper crystal is a unique material here, and it's only found in small quantities. Just because you haven't seen it before doesn't mean it doesn't exist, Yi Xinpu said. Xian Zhaoluan didn't say anything. He also hoped to get his hands on copper crystal. It was one of the main materials for building a hidden door. He came here mainly for Bayasi. If he was lucky enough to get his hands on a few pieces, that would be even better. He didn't expect there to be a large copper crystal mine here. Is this information accurate? Song Qiao asked. It's accurate, Yi Zhong said. However, it's very difficult to get there. The Thousand Sound Ice Mountain is behind the ice cave plains. Getting there is difficult enough, let alone going through it. You all know that we can only stay in the ice cave plains for a few dozen days. Without the help of a monarch, it's impossible to get to the Thousand Sound Ice Mountain. Xian Feng came to a realization. Immediately understanding the intentions of these three fellows, they wanted to use Song Yao's strength to send them over. He didn't oppose this method. It was mutually beneficial. They provided the information while Song Yao was responsible for sending them over. Of course, the benefits brought by the information would be shared by everyone. Jean Dia kept frowning as he muttered, "Copper crystals? Copper crystal. Why does it sound so familiar? I can't remember." What can't you remember? Xian Zhaoluan asked. Jean Dia said, "The name copper crystal sounds very familiar, but I can't remember why. What do you mean, why?" Xian Zhaoluan asked. Copper crystal is called Fengma copper. Jean Dia clapped. That's right, Fengma copper. This is Fengma copper. Hee, this is good stuff. Sending you, there isn't a problem, Song Qiao said. But you should know that Qianin Ice Mountain isn't an easy place to live. There are many ice beasts there, and the weather is getting warmer. They'll appear soon. With your strength, you can handle them, but it'll be very dangerous. Yi Zhong smiled and said, "Don't we have you, senior?" Ha ha. Song Yao smiled and said, "All right, these three brats know how to behave. How about this? Let's go together. We were planning to go to the ice cave anyway, so let's go to the Thousand Sound Ice Mountain first and see how much copper crystal we can find." Lei Xingfeng also understood the importance of materials. During his advancement in cultivation, he had spent a lot of precious materials just to refine Leiyin. He had also borrowed a lot of materials, all of which had to be returned. Even if he couldn't return the original materials, he could replace them with other materials. Therefore, he was anxious to go out and find ores. Hongjie came out and said, "Take me with you this time." Xian Zhaoluan nodded and said, "Little junior sister has someone to protect her, right?" Hongjie nodded. "Yes, no problem. She's just cultivating at home. It's very fast here. After her advancement, she's already consolidated it. As long as she practices enough, it's not impossible for her to advance again." To Miao Ling, mining was meaningless. Her greatest reward was to cultivate here. However, as her bodyguard, Sister Hong had to consider more. Therefore, if there was a chance to mine, she wouldn't fall behind. She didn't participate last time, but this time, no matter what, she had to participate. Song Yao frowned. There were too many people. Fortunately, opening the door in the same world didn't cost too much. Otherwise, he'd have a headache. All right, let's count the people. If there are more, it won't be easy. You want to tire me to death? Xian Jialuan said. No problem. We only have this many people. Lei Xingfeng brought Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love. There were 4 people in total. Xian Jialuan didn't bring Xiao Dia. Xiao Dia's level was too low. If he followed, it would be too dangerous. Xian Jialuan didn't have the confidence to protect him, so he didn't bring him. The last to join was Hong Jia. Chweezy and Mad Axe had returned. They'd gotten a lot of food, so they didn't have to risk their lives with the others. Then there was Yizhong and the other 2. Song Yao counted and said, there are 9 people in total. Including me, that's 10. That's a bit too many. Forget it. I'll work a bit harder to bring everyone. But I have a request. I hope you won't refuse. Xian Jialuan said, Senior, please tell us. Song Qiao said, no matter what we get, I want 20%. Xian Jialuan nodded. No problem, I agree. But we also have a little, hope for you. He didn't dare say it out loud. Song Yao nodded. Go ahead. Xian Jialuan said, protect all of us. Song Yao was very straightforward. In this world, his martial strength was considered top-notch. There was basically nothing that could threaten him, so he agreed without hesitation. How about the 3 of you? Can you agree to my conditions? Yizhong also agreed, without hesitation. This condition wasn't harsh at all. Even if Song Yao asked for half, they would still agree. This was a rare opportunity. The difficult part was how to reach the destination. With Song Yao around, they would be saved a lot of trouble. Song Yao was very satisfied. 20% of the total income didn't seem like much, but if everyone took 20% of their gains, it would be a lot when added together. He was very happy. There were so many people working for him, and he didn't have to pay anything. There was no difference between 1 person and 10 people using the secret door. It was the same whether he went by himself or with others. As for safety, as long as they didn't run into any abnormal ice beasts, there wouldn't be any problems. These people weren't ordinary cultivators. They were all 9th ring sages. Even Lei Xingfeng was strong. In other words, he was getting 20% for free. What was there to be dissatisfied with? Song Qiao said, very good. What preparations do you all have? If not, we can leave now. As cultivators, everything was stored in their hidden Luan space. They could leave at any time. Xian Jialuan looked at everyone. Lei Xingfeng nodded. We have no problems. Hong Jia said, I have no problems either. Xian Jialuan said, Senior, we can leave now. Yizhong, Yixinpu, and Yishui looked at each other. Yizhong said, we have no problems either. Song Qiao said, good, let's go. He waved his hands, and a door suddenly appeared. Let's go. Everyone entered in a single file. Song Yao waited until the last person entered the secret door before entering it. The moment Song Yao entered, the secret door disappeared. Using the hidden door, they arrived at the 1,000-sound ice mountain. Lei Xingfeng walked out of the hidden door and heard countless voices. Some were whispers, some were the roars of tigers, some were the cries of eagles, some were the cries of laments, and some were the sounds of blades cutting through the air. There were all kinds of strange sounds, sometimes high and sometimes low. It made him dizzy. Xian Jialuan cheered. As expected of the thousand-sound ice mountain, he said, Song Chao followed. It's just the sound of the wind, he said. The thousand-sound ice mountain was actually an ice mountain range. There were countless ice cavities on the mountain. Wherever the wind blew, the ice cavities would make all kinds of sounds. That was how it got its name. Song Chao said, I've been here a few times. I've only found a few types of ores. This is the first time I've heard of a copper mine. After Yizhong and the others came out, they kept looking at their surroundings. After about 20 minutes, Yizhong finally figured out where they were. Come with me. Fortunately, the cold weather is over. The wind is at its weakest right now, so we can all fly. But make sure to stay close to the ground. Don't go too high, or you'll attract the attacks of the ice beasts. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love came to Lei Xingfeng's side, one on each side. They grabbed Lei Xingfeng's arms. Mad Eagle smiled. We'll carry you first. Lei Xingfeng remembered that he could already fly, but he'd never done it before. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love came to his side to help him get used to flying. He thanked them in a low voice. He was a little excited. With the help of the two, he followed the others. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love let go of his arms from time to time. After a few times, Lei Xingfeng gradually got used to it. Slowly, he could fly at low altitudes on his own. Although he wasn't used to it yet, he was slowly getting the hang of it. After flying for more than an hour, Yizhong and the others landed in an ice valley. Yizhong came to Song Chao. Senior, they should be nearby. I hope you can scan the area. Song Chao nodded. His body suddenly flickered and disappeared without a trace. After a few breaths of time, Song Chao reappeared. Isn't this the mining area you found? Yizhong's expression was calm. Yes, I got the news by chance. Ha! There should be people here. Song Chao nodded. There are 6 people, 3 ninth ring sages and 3 8th ring sages. They aren't very strong. What do you plan to do? Yizhong was very cunning. We'll follow Senior's orders. Xian Zhaolun wasn't stupid. We'll follow Senior's orders, he said. Song Chao sighed. 20% won't be easy to get. All right, since that's the case, we'll drive them away. If they resist, kill them all. Don't let a single one escape. Only now did Xian Feng realize how ruthless Song Yao was. He silently reminded himself that in this world, he had to be careful. This world was different from his previous one. Even if there were conflicts in his previous life, even if there was hatred, it wouldn't reach the point of life and death. However, in this world, there wasn't any hatred. One could be killed for no reason. With Song Chao's support, Yizhong and the others became excited and rushed forward. Chapter 181. Before Lei Xingfeng arrived, the fight had already begun. Xian Zhaolun said, Since they're fighting, let's attack together. Don't let anyone go, or the consequences will be dire. Lei Xingfeng nodded. Okay, let's go. Xian Zhaolun said, A phone, just watch. Song Yao also said, Okay, the little guy will watch from the side. Just let your subordinates go. Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly. He was despised by everyone. He said, Okay, Uncle Ling and Uncle Tiger will go. Uncle Jean will accompany me. Sister Hong also rushed over. At this time, she had to contribute. Otherwise, the harvest would belong to no one. Everyone knew this. A group of people rushed over, and only 2 people stayed behind. 8 against 6. In fact, the number of people was not a big deal, but the most terrifying thing was that there was a monarch among the 8 people. This was simply a trap. At the beginning of the battle, Yizhong and the other 2 were a little strained. However, after Xian Zhaolun and the others joined in, the situation immediately changed. They suppressed the 6 people. At this time, Song Yao attacked. He did not attack directly, but used an extremely strange method to make the other party's bodies suddenly stiffen and slow down their movements. The result was that they were quickly killed by a few people. People died continuously. The few people were so anxious that their eyes turned red. It was difficult for them to escape. They watched as another 8th ring sage died. Now, there were 2 9th ring sage and 1 8th ring sage left. They had not been in contact for long, and 3 people had died. Song Yao kept attacking secretly, quietly freezing one person after another. Then, they were quickly killed by Exine Jiaoluan and the others. The remaining 3 people knew that things were not good. They desperately tried to escape, but it was absolutely too late. In an instant, 2 people were killed. Only 1 9th ring sage was left. That person's face was filled with despair. According to their strength, even if they encountered a strong enemy, there should be no problem for a few of them to escape. He did not expect that after hesitating for a while, 5 people were killed. He shouted, "I'm from the Hailon clan. This time, Song Yao acted personally. He pounced forward and said, "Die." With a loud bang, that person looked at the large hole in his chest and raised his head in disbelief. A sentence came out of his mouth. "True monarch." He finally understood why his group had suffered such a crushing defeat. A group of people who were on par with him in terms of strength had actually mixed in with a true monarch. He had originally thought that he could put up a fight, but in the end, all of them had been killed. Not a single one of them had escaped. The last 9th ring sage understood before he died, but it was too late. He could not spread any news. "What did that guy say?" Song Chao asked. Exine Jiaoluan was not stupid. He said, "What? I didn't hear anything." Yizhong also said, "I didn't hear it either." Lei Xingfeng thought, "Is the Hailon family very famous to be able to make a true monarch so apprehensive?" He said, "I was in the back. I didn't hear anything." Song Yao's expression improved slightly. He said, "Yes, let's hurry up and get as many copper crystals as we can." Lei Xingfeng was puzzled. "Mine? Where?" He looked at the shattered ice on the ground. Song Chao laughed. "In the ice. You didn't expect there to be a mine in the ice, did you?" Lei Xingfeng nodded. "How strange. Why would this or be in the ice?" Copper crystals, also known as Fenghua copper, are extremely light. They don't sink to the bottom of the water, but instead float in the water. Perhaps millions of years ago, this place was all water, so it's not strange for copper crystals to be in the ice, Song Chao explained. This was an ice cliff completely made of ice. Layers upon layers of cracks could be seen clearly, and the copper mine was in one of the layers about 10 meters above the ground. Luckily, Exine Feng could already fly, and even if he wasn't familiar with it, he was still able to hover at the edge of the 10-meter high ice cliff without any problems. This layer of ice was not translucent. Instead, it was a murky grayish-black color, like water that had suddenly been frozen. Therefore, on this ice cliff, each layer of compressed and fractured cross-section had a different color. It looked like it was made up of more than 10 ice ribbons of different colors, extending along the ice cliff to both sides. It looked like a colorful ribbon embedded in the steep ice wall. "So that's how it is," Lei Xingfeng said. Song Chao said, "Hurry up and dig. We'll stay here for a few days at most. Then we'll leave." Exine Jiaoluan said, "Yes, let's stay for 5 days. During these 5 days, try to rest as little as possible. Dig as much as you can." Lei Xingfeng suddenly understood that the Hailong family wasn't to be trifled with. They'd killed 6 of their people here, forming a grudge. The only way was to not let the Hailong family know it was them who did it. Leaving as soon as they got their spoils of war was the wisest choice. Yizhong said, All right, let's get moving. The group immediately flew up, pouncing on the black ice and beginning to dig. Lei Xingfeng wasn't in a hurry. He carefully observed and soon noticed the difference. There were a few places where a faint blue glow appeared. Only then did he fly up. About 10 meters above the ground, the ice was between 2 and 5 meters thick. Judging from the cracks, it was relatively thick. This time, Lei Xingfeng directly used the chaos wheel. He tried to be less violent, using it to clear the ice. It was as if a small tornado had appeared in the palm of his hand. When it came into contact with the ice, it immediately shattered the ice that was as hard as iron. Lei Xingfeng was overjoyed. It was useful. The chaos wheel was more effective than any digging tool, and its power could be controlled by one's heart. This made him overjoyed. He began to destroy the ice. Countless pieces of ice fell. Soon, he used the chaos wheel to dig out a large ice cave. Voila! Seeing pieces of black rocks falling from the ice layer, Xian Feng immediately took out a net and caught these ores. In just a moment, he had collected a net full of copper ores, all of them the size of a fist. This was a mine with at least a few hundred ores gathered here. Lei Xingfeng used the chaos wheel to dig them out. He was only interested in this kind of mine. The rest were left for Jin Dia to dig. Then, Lei Xingfeng flew outside and observed again. This time, he saw 2 blue lights. He said, "Uncle Ing, you dig here. Uncle Tiger will dig that one. I'll go find another place. Come find me when you're done." Lei Xingfeng's main task was to find ores. He now completely understood that his vision was different from others. He could see the light of ores. As long as it was on the vein, he could find the ore with the highest concentration and the best quality. This was something that others could not do. This ore belt extended along the ice cliff to both ends. It was more than 2,000 meters long. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng followed the ore belt. Once he found a blue light, he would immediately mark out a location for Jin Dia, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love to dig. These 3 were his people, so the ores they dug out were also his. As they continued to gather ores, they dug out more and more copper crystal ores. Jin Dia was more and more surprised. As long as Lei Xingfeng pointed out a location, he could dig out ores gathered together. His efficiency was extremely high. During this time, Song Yao came over to take a look and was completely dumbfounded. Although he was a monarch, the amount of ores he dug was not as much as Mad Eagle and the others. He could not find a mine, so he could only dig along the ore belt and destroy all the ice on the ore belt. There would always be copper crystal ores among the mess left behind. However, digging like this not only yielded little, but the efficiency was also extremely low. A day later, Xian Zhaoluan and Sister Hong also joined Lei Xingfeng's team. Lei Xingfeng did not need to dig anymore. He only needed to point out a few things, and the others would dig like crazy. Their speed was enough to catch up with his inspection speed. As for Yi Zhong and the others, Lei Xingfeng and the others did not pay any attention to them. Moreover, the 2 groups of people were divided into 2 sides of the ore belt. They did not know how fast Lei Xingfeng's team was digging. Only Song Yao was starting to get jealous. In the end, he reached an agreement with them. They did not get 20% of the ores in the beginning. Instead, Lei Xingfeng would point out the locations and let him dig by himself. Song Yao did not regret it. After digging out a few ores, his face revealed a smile. With his speed, as long as Lei Xingfeng pointed out a location, he would be able to dig quickly. This efficiency far exceeded his expectations. 5 days passed quickly. In these 5 days, no one slept. Even if they ate, they would eat some dry rations. They did not waste any time. In the later stages, Lei Xingfeng simply marked the ore belt, and the others dug crazily. In just 5 days, most of the ores were dug clean. Lei Xingfeng calculated for a moment. He had obtained about 50,000 ores. On average, he obtained 10,000 ores a day. Of course, this was due to the efficiency of the four of them. The others also had a great harvest. Song Yao was even more satisfied. In just 5 days, he had actually dug out 11,000 ores. Yizhong and the others were more miserable. Of course, they did not care. The three of them worked for 5 days and did not even dig out 500 ores. How could they have a good harvest if they dug blindly? Song Yao saw that it was about time. He immediately led everyone to retreat. This time, they did not go to the ice cave plains. Instead, they went through the secret door and returned to Hanya Castle. Lei Xingfeng returned to his room and fell asleep immediately. The others were the same. They had not slept for 5 days and 5 nights. Moreover, they had been working nonstop. Even if they were cultivators, they still felt that it was a bit too much. 2 days later, everyone woke up one after another. They began to cook and eat their fill. Song Yao finished eating and said, "Did everyone rest well?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "No problem. Everyone rested well." Song Yao glanced at Lei Xingfeng. He really liked this little guy. He could actually accurately find the location of ores. This skill was too powerful. He said, "Since everyone rested well, let's go to the ice cave plains. There are more ores waiting for us to dig out." Chapter 182. The ice cave plains was similar to the Thousand Sound iceberg in that both had tens of thousands of holes. The only difference was that the Thousand Sound iceberg was higher than the ground, while the ice cave plains was a plain of ice. The holes were all under the ice, and there was no way to go there. If one couldn't fly, they'd die without a doubt. It was full of traps. Only cultivators with 6 rings or higher could survive in the ice cave plains. There was no way to walk there. Whether it was above or below the ice, there were holes of all sizes. There were also huge cracks in the ice. If one couldn't fly, they'd fall in and never come out. At the bottom of the ice cave plains was a huge open space formed by the ice. It was said that some of the open spaces covered an area of 1 square kilometer. Above them was a curved layer of ice that had formed over tens of thousands of years. Below the ice, there were strange insects and beasts. Normally, cultivators wouldn't choose this place. If Song Qiao hadn't brought Lei Xingfeng and the others here, they probably wouldn't have thought of coming here. Song Qiao was very familiar with the ice cave plains. When he opened the secret door, he knew that the entrance would be directly below the ice cave plains. In other words, the gap between the ice and the earth. Xian Feng was also shocked when he walked out of the secret door. The sky was covered with a layer of ice, and with the reflection of light, it wasn't dark at all. There were even some plants growing on the ground, but they weren't green, but white or light yellow, with some small animals moving around. "This is a maze," Song Qiao said. "It's very big. If there's no secret door, you'll get lost and be completely trapped." "Trapped?" Lei Xingfeng asked. "As long as we go up, we should be able to go back." Song Qiao smiled. "That's right. As long as you go up, you can go back. But think about it. You can only leave after the cold weather passes. Even if you find a way out, you'll have to wait for the cold weather to pass. If you miss it, you'll be trapped here forever." There were a few ninth ring sages who were trapped here for years before escaping. Lei Xingfeng smiled. "We won't be trapped, will we? With Senior here, we can leave at any time." "Of course," Song Qiao said. "We'll go to the mine. That's a good place. Haha, let's follow the old rules. I don't want 20% of the ore. You can give me some pointers and I'll mine it myself." After tasting the benefits once, He was naturally interested in this mode. He was very satisfied with his previous gains. Lei Xingfeng nodded. No problem. I'll give you some pointers. Let's go take a look at the mine first and see what it's like. He was becoming more and more confident in his vision. The group of people followed Song Yao forward. Song Yao said as they walked, "To be able to come here and stop to mine, there must be a true monarch behind them. So if you meet other cultivators here, try not to get into a conflict." Xian Zhaoluan said, "We won't provoke others." Lei Xingfeng said, "What if they provoke us?" "That won't happen," Song Qiao said. "Those who are allowed to move around here are under orders from their elders. They wouldn't fight for no reason." The terrain under the ice was extremely complicated. It was like a sponge cake with countless holes. After only an hour of walking, Lei Xingfeng was completely confused. They were surrounded by a layer of blue ice and countless strange passages. It was a dazzling sight. Song Qiao was very familiar with this place. He watched as Song Qiao led the way as if it were his own home, turning left and right without hesitation. Soon, they passed through several ice passages and arrived at a large space. A long, narrow, twisting rock appeared in front of them. It looked like a giant rock snake. The ice above their heads was like a giant umbrella covering the open ground. Lei Xingfeng sucked in a breath of cold air. "Holy shit," he said. "If the ice above collapses, none of us will be able to escape." Everyone was amazed. They raised their heads to look up. Song Qiao laughed. "No need to look. The ice is hundreds of meters thick. It won't collapse. Don't worry." Lei Xingfeng asked, "Are we there?" Song Qiao nodded. "Yes, it's here. Do you see this rock belt? It's a rich mine." Xian Zhaoluan asked, "What kind of mine is it?" Song Qiao said, "The ore here isn't something you sages can use. It's something only monarchs can use. However, it's a good thing that you can store some. Even if you can't use it, you can exchange it for yin rings." The ninth ring sages were pleasantly surprised. Only a monarch like Song Qiao could find a vein like this. Even if they came here, they wouldn't know what it was. Lei Xingfeng asked, "What kind of mine is this?" Song Qiao said, "Heavenly Essence Stone. Have you heard of it?" In this group, other than Xian Zhaoluan, everyone else had a blank expression on their faces. Only Xian Zhaoluan had a look of shock on his face. Then his face bloomed with joy, and he didn't know what to do. "Heavenly Essence Stone. There's Heavenly Essence Stone here." Lei Xingfeng asked, "Senior brother, is Heavenly Essence Stone very rare?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "Rare? Last time, our founder traded a few hundred yin rings for a little bit of Heavenly Essence Stone, and wasn't even refined. Don't you think it's precious?" Lei Xingfeng didn't expect their founder to want Heavenly Essence Stone. One could imagine how precious it was. Song Qiao laughed. "If it wasn't for Feng's ability, I wouldn't have brought you here." "Haha, this thing. You have a founder?" He was shocked to be Xian Zhaoluan's founder. His strength must be terrifying. Xian Zhaoluan nodded. "Yes, we have a founder." Song Qiao said, "Your founder, has he surpassed Monarch?" Xian Zhaoluan shook his head. "I don't know. I don't know what his cultivation is." Song Qiao said, "Then is your master a monarch?" Xian Zhaoluan nodded. "Yes, there's no doubt about that. My master is indeed a monarch." There was nothing to hide, so he admitted it directly. Song Qiao smiled bitterly. In fact, he already had plans to take Lei Xingfeng away by force, but after hearing this news, he could only give up. He didn't want to provoke an expert stronger than a monarch. He sighed. "Heavenly Essence Stone. It's very difficult to dig up, and it's scattered everywhere. Although it's a rich mine, without a certain amount of luck, you won't be able to dig up much. I've been here many times, but I haven't dug up much. In fact, Song Qiao had been here at least a dozen times, and each time he'd only managed to dig up a few pieces. So when he found out that Lei Xingfeng could find ores, he immediately brought them here. Song Qiao said, "This time, if you dig up any heavenly essence stone, you can trade it for yin rings or something else. I guarantee you won't lose out. How about it?" Xian Jialuan said, "Let's dig and see." Song Qiao said, "There's no point in digging randomly. Heavenly essence stone. Well, here's what it looks like." He took out a piece of heavenly essence stone and handed it to Lei Xingfeng. It was a white stone the size of a walnut, with ink-black marks on its surface. The black marks were like silk threads, messy on the white stone, giving it a gray color. Lei Xingfeng looked closely and saw that within the black marks there was a golden light. Handing the stone to Xian Jialuan, Lei Xingfeng said, "Is this raw, or it hasn't been purified, has it?" Song Qiao said, "It hasn't been purified, so it's very difficult to dig up. If you're not careful, you'll miss it. Heavenly essence stone grows within the rock. You have to break the rock to find it, but you can't break all the rock. If you're not careful, you'll break both the rock and the stone." Jean Dia said, "That difficult?" Song Qiao said, "Yes, because no one can see through the rock. Generally speaking, only ninth ring cultivators could find and mine this kind of ore. There was no need to doubt their abilities, but if they wanted to dig out good, or they might not be able to do so. This was especially true for ores buried deep within the rock. If they weren't careful, both the rock and the ore would be destroyed. Even a monarch wouldn't be able to do anything." Xian Jialuan turned and asked, "A Feng, can you see if theirs are in that rock?" Lei Xingfeng had been observing for a long time. To his surprise, he could see that there was something strange. Some of the rocks had faint dark spots. He didn't know if there was a heavenly essence stone there. "Let me try first." There were a lot of rocks on the ground, all of them discarded after the excavation. Lei Xingfeng picked up a piece and saw the dark spots. However, when he picked it up, the spots disappeared. Song Qiao said, "Hit it with a hammer. Don't use too much force." Lei Xingfeng took out a steel hammer and hit it lightly. With a crack, the rock split into several pieces, revealing half a piece of heavenly essence stone. The other half was still attached to the rock. As long as he carefully peeled it off, he could get a piece of heavenly essence stone. Song Qiao couldn't help but cry out, "Wow, this is really good. Ha ha ha." He was so happy that he didn't know what to do. He needed a lot of heavenly essence stone. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come here so often. Once he confirmed that Lei Xingfeng could find it, he couldn't control his joy. This meant that he could collect all of it in one go and wouldn't have to come to this damned place again. Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, I know what to do." Song Qiao said, "A Feng, you take command. We'll all listen to you." He didn't care that he was a monarch. As long as he could find enough heavenly essence stone, he could do anything. Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, we'll all listen to me. Who has any objections?" He couldn't help but make a joke. No one had any objections. Xian Jialuan said, "A Feng, you take command." Chapter 183. All right, Lei Xingfeng said, "Senior Song, you're in charge of breaking the rocks. Sister Hong, you're in charge of throwing them to the ground. Sister Hong alone won't be enough. Uncle Tiger will help. Brother, you help Senior Song as well. Uncle Jean and Uncle Ing will follow me. I'll pick the rocks." Everyone nodded. "Which rock do you like?" Song Qiao asked. The snake-like group of rocks. Even the smallest one was the size of a small house. Xian Feng spoke. "Follow me." He flew into the air and stuck close to the rocks for a distance with the rest of the group following closely behind. On the rocks, Some of them had dark spots, but most of them didn't. Xian Feng noticed that one side of the large rock was filled with dark spots. He spoke, "Attack this one from the top. Don't touch this side. As long as the rock on this side collapses, it will collapse." To Song Yao, attacking was never a problem. He just waved his hand, and a red light flashed. With a loud bang, the huge rock that was the size of a room was shattered into pieces. "This one," Lei Xingfeng said. "This one, and this one. Break it a little more and move it to the ground over there." Song Qiao had already seen the heavenly essence stones. He knew they were there, and there were quite a few of them. He was overjoyed. "I'll do it," he said. His hidden Luan space was the largest, so he directly kept all the shattered rocks into his hidden Luan space. Then he went to an empty space and released the rocks. Actually, he really wanted to take all the rocks away. This already proved that there was a large amount of heavenly essence stone in the rocks. The reason why he didn't do this before was because he couldn't be sure if there was any heavenly essence stone in the rocks. He couldn't keep the entire rock belt in his hidden Luan space. One rock after another was broken. Then, with Lei Xingfeng's guidance, they piled up the rocks on the ground. After continuously smashing 7 large rocks, the largest of which was over 10 meters tall and 30 meters long, after this large rock was smashed, the broken pieces made everyone busy for half an hour before Xian Feng spoke. "All right, let's go pick up rocks." Most of the rocks didn't have heavenly essence stones. Only a few did. Relying on Xian Feng's guidance, they placed the stones with heavenly essence stones to the side and distributed them, each person taking a portion. Of course, these stones had to be brought back and slowly removed. According to Xian Feng's words, each of these stones had at least one heavenly essence stone. Each person was given around 80 rocks. In other words, they had at least 80 heavenly essence stones. Everyone was very satisfied, especially Song Qiao. In just half a day, they had collected 80 heavenly essence stones. This kind of collecting speed was something he had never imagined. Song Qiao understood that they were able to collect quite a lot this time because of Xian Feng. If it was him, he wouldn't know which boulder had the heavenly essence stone. They had broken 7 boulders, and around these 7 boulders were thousands of boulders. If it was him, even if he tried his luck, he might not be able to find a boulder like this. There were many broken rocks around the rocks. They had been broken by Song Qiao in the past. Many of them had dark spots. Lei Xingfeng casually put them into his hidden Luan space. No one could say anything about this. They all knew that this guy must have secretly eaten them. However, this was his ability. No one else could do it. Lei Xingfeng also found some other rocks. Some glowed red, some glowed blue. They were all very strange. As long as they had these characteristics, he put them all into his hidden Luan space. Another round of boulders smashing began. Following the rock belt, the group was busy. Everyone was very excited. In the eyes of Jean Daya, Mad Eagle, Tiger Love, and Hong Jia, these rocks were all potential Yin rings. If they didn't work hard now, when would they work hard? Everyone was working with all their heart. Even Song Qiao was very serious. In just a few days, he had almost collected all the heavenly essence stones he needed. At this rate, he would definitely collect more than he needed. Of course, he wouldn't complain about having too many. He could use the extra stones to exchange for anything. In 10 days, Song Qiao calculated that he had put at least 3,000 stones into his hidden Luan space. When he had free time in the future, he could slowly peel them off to get at least 3,000 heavenly essence stones, or even more. Lei Xingfeng had gotten even more. First of all, he had 3 subordinates. Each of them had a share. What they got was Lei Xingfeng's share. In addition, Lei Xingfeng also had a share. From time to time, he would pick up some rocks. Others didn't know. but he knew very well that the stones he picked up were special. For example, they had a lot of dark spots. Of course, he still had to peel them off to find out what was inside. Pointing at a 7-meter-tall rock not far away, Lei Xingfeng said, "Break this rock." Song Chao smiled and flew over. At this time, Lei Xingfeng suddenly found a rock the size of a water tank. It wasn't because it was small, but because it was emitting a 5-colored light that attracted him. Lei Xingfeng didn't hesitate to fly to the rock and put it into his hidden Luan space. He didn't know what was inside the rock, but he knew in his heart that there was definitely something good inside. Jean Dia and Mad Eagle intentionally blocked everyone's view. In addition, everyone's attention was attracted by Song Qiao. Therefore, other than Jean Dia and Mad Eagle, no one saw Lei Xingfeng take the rock. When Song Qiao broke the rock, Lei Xingfeng started to distribute it. He pointed out a piece, and one person came up to take it. Everyone had one chance. Then, Lei Xingfeng continued to point out. After a while, the mining of a huge rock was finished. Lei Xingfeng said, "I'm tired. Let's take a break." Song Qiao smiled. "All right, let's take a break. We've collected enough heavenly essence stones. I didn't think we'd get so much this time." Everyone found an empty space and sat down. This time, it was Hong Jia who started the fire and started cooking. Lei Xingfeng sat down. "Senior Song, what other materials can we collect?" "What's wrong?" Song Qiao asked. "You've collected so many heavenly essence stones. Are you still not satisfied?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head. "No, it's just that it's too rare to come here. If there are any other special minerals, we need to hurry up and collect them. We might not have another chance like this in the future." Song Qiao said, "I only know of this mine. If we want to find other mines, we'll have to search everywhere. But don't worry about getting lost. Follow me, and we'll be able to return to Hanya Castle at any time." Xian Zhaoluan said, "I think so too. We should look for other mines. We've collected enough heavenly essence stones. If there are other mines, we have a phone. No matter what, we'll be able to collect enough." Song Yao didn't care anymore. This time, he had collected enough heavenly essence stones. He had already achieved his goal of coming here. If he could find other mines, he wouldn't be dissatisfied. He nodded and said, "Yes, I agree that we should look for new mines." Hong Jia raised her hand. "I agree as well." "I have no objections," Jean Dia said. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love didn't object either. Lei Xingfeng smiled. "All right, let's go together. Hee, we were scared half to death on this trip to Hanya Castle, but the harvest is not small." Xian Zhaoluan said, "You're still acting like you've got a bargain. You bastard. How much did you get from this trip to Hanya Castle? Other things aside, Lei Yin and the Chaos Wheel are worth thousands of dollars. Not to mention, you also got purple crystals, red gold, Bayasi, and a whole bunch of other materials." When he mentioned Bayasi, Song Qiao's eyes flashed. Song Qiao smiled. "You got Bayasi?" Xian Zhaoluan immediately regretted it. He'd been careless and forgot about Song Qiao, an outsider. But since he'd said it, there was no need to hide it. "Yes, we got some Bayasi." Song Qiao giggled. "Good stuff. I didn't think you'd get Bayasi on top of purple crystals." Lei Xingfeng said, "Bayasi isn't easy to get. We didn't get much." Song Qiao laughed. "Little slippery, with you here, do you think we won't get much?" Lei Xingfeng couldn't say a word. One had to know that his talent was already on full display. In the past few days, who knew how many of the most difficult materials, heavenly essence stones, he dug up? Lei Xingfeng laughed foolishly, not daring to say anything more. Song Qiao saw that the group was playing dumb and couldn't help but laugh. "What are you doing? Even if I wanted Bayasi, I'd trade it with you. I wouldn't steal your stuff." I still have a bit of self-respect. I won't bully you little guys. Two words popped up in everyone's minds. My ass. As expected, after a while, Song Qiao said, "A phone. How about you let me have some bayasi?" Lei Xingfeng laughed bitterly. "Senior, didn't you say you didn't want it?" He almost said, "Didn't you have a bit of self-respect?" but changed his mind. The monarch really couldn't be offended. If he flew into a rage out of humiliation, no one could stop him. Song Qiao said, "When did I say I didn't want it? I want it." Lei Xingfeng felt a chill. "Fine, you're the senior. If you say you want it, then I'll take it. But I don't have much." He began to play dead. Song Qiao raised his pinky. "Just a little bit is enough." Lei Xingfeng was dumbfounded. His senior was a rascal. Just as Lei Xingfeng didn't know how to respond, the sound of something collapsing came from the distance. Because it was under a layer of ice, the sound of something collapsing was particularly shocking. Everyone immediately stood up and looked in the direction of the sound. A white mist rose as Song Qiao flew up. He stared at the place where the mist came from. After about 10 seconds, he landed and said, "It looks like an ice beast. I can't be sure. Maybe it's just a piece of the ice that collapsed." Xian Zhaoluan said, "There are ice beasts under here." Song Qiao said, "Of course there are ice beasts. This place can hide from the extreme cold. Many ice beasts will hide here." Lei Xingfeng had never seen an ice beast before. He asked, "Are they strong?" Chapter 184. Ever since Xianfeng came to Hanya Castle, he had never seen an ice beast before. He had only heard of it from others. As for how powerful it was, he had no idea. He was now confident in his own strength. After all, after reaching the 6th true ringed realm, he could fly. And once he could fly, his combat space would greatly increase. No matter if it was attacking or retreating, it would greatly increase. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng wasn't too afraid of ice beasts. The white mist continued to spread. Song Trao frowned. "It seems to be Zeshur." The name was very strange. Lei Xingfeng didn't understand. "Zeshur? What's that?" Song Trao explained. "It's a type of ice beast that can spit out icy mist. It's extremely cold. Although it can't compare to the extreme cold, it can still slow people down. If you're too weak, you might freeze." A phone, step back. You can't deal with the mist. Everyone else, get ready." Xianfeng was a bit discouraged, but he understood that in the outside world, his strength wasn't enough. Once he reached 8th or 9th ring, there wouldn't be any problems. At the very least, he'd have the qualifications to fight. Although he could use the Chaos Wheel to force back a 9th ring sage, strictly speaking, he really couldn't compare to a 9th ring sage. The difference in levels wasn't that easy to overcome. Xian Zhaoluan's eyes lit up. "Zeshur is a good thing. As long as we avoid the mist, it's not that scary." Song Qiao suddenly smiled. "Yes, be careful. A phone can fight too. Don't you have the Chaos Wheel? Attacking with that thing should be pretty effective." Xianfeng immediately became happy. He also wished that he could attack, mainly because he wanted to become more familiar with using the Chaos Wheel. According to his previous 2 attacks, the Chaos Wheel was an excellent long-range weapon. He believed that once he fully grasped the Chaos Wheel, he wouldn't need to take the risk of close combat anymore. However, Lei Xingfeng wasn't in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he observed how Xian Zhaoluan and the others attacked. Song Yao didn't make a move either. With his status, he felt a little embarrassed to make a move, unless an extremely powerful ice beast appeared, one that even Xian Zhaoluan and the others couldn't defeat. With Song Qiao in charge, Xian Zhaoluan and the others could go all out. Opportunities like this didn't come often. With such a powerful person in charge, they didn't have to worry about any accidents. So, once they went all out, their attacks became more powerful than usual. They didn't have to hold back. They didn't have to hold back just in case. Zacy's entire body was hidden in the icy mist. It was impossible to see what it looked like from the outside, but one could vaguely make out a black shadow. Just from the silhouette, Lei Xingfeng felt that it looked like a toad. It squatted on the ground and spat out waves of mist from its mouth. Toad. Lei Xingfeng was really surprised. Although it was only a vague shadow, he still felt that it was very similar to a toad. Of course, if this was a toad, then its body was too big. Who had seen a toad that was as tall as two people? Boom! Jean Dia was the first to make a move. In an instant, Zacy's true appearance was revealed. It did indeed look like a toad. Strictly speaking, it looked like a toad without its tail. Its mouth was more like a crocodile's. It had a wide and long mouth, revealing fine teeth. There was a crack in its upper jaw, which was constantly spraying out thick ice mist. There was a layer of ice armor on its body, which was emitting a blue and white light. A big lizard with a tail. Lei Xingfeng couldn't describe how he felt, but it was very novel. As for the shape of the ice beast, he could only use the shapes of animals from his previous world to see what it looked like. Whoosh! Under the attacks of Exai and Zhaoluan and the others, the icy mist dissipated. Zacy sensed that something was wrong and disappeared in an instant. The others didn't expect the ice beast to be so fast. They all stopped in shock. Where? Where? Lei Xingfeng didn't know why, but he seemed to have sensed something. He suddenly raised his head and realized that Zacy was lying on top of the ice. Its entire body was attached to the ice mountain like a gecko. He didn't even have time to point it out before the chaos wheel flew out. Zacy suddenly jumped down from the top of the ice wall. His target was Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng also launched an attack. The chaos wheel flew out and instantly smashed onto Zacy's body. It was mixed with thick electric currents. Zacy was immediately at a disadvantage and was sent flying. Lei Xingfeng's attacks didn't stop so easily. Once he attacked, it was like a violent storm. Lei Xingfeng roared. The chaos wheel turned into rays of blue light. In an instant, Zacy let out a sorrowful cry. With this crazy beating, Zacy was sent flying 100 meters away. Blue blood flowed out of his body. Just as Zacy was sent flying, Jean Dia roared, "Let me do it!" A steel spear as thick as a duck's egg shot down from the sky. It instantly pierced through Zacy's neck and nailed it to the ice. Crackling sounds of twisting and smashing rang out. After a few minutes, Zacy finally died. Exai and Zhaoluan said, "Not bad. Afeng, your chaos wheel is really powerful." Zacy couldn't resist at all. He. Jean Dia said, "Zacy should be numbed by Afeng's lightning. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had the chance to launch a fatal attack." After capturing a Zacy, everyone's faces revealed smiles. Only then did Exai and Feng walk to the side of this Zacy, observing it carefully. This was a Zacy that was 5 meters long. Its tail took up half of its length. It had 4 thick and short legs. Its feet did not have claws. Instead, they had thin suckers. Its body was covered in a layer of ice. And as it died, that layer of ice gradually fell off, revealing its white skin. Song Yao seemed to be very familiar with Zaysher. He took out a 2-foot-long knife and gently cut open Zaysher's huge skull. Even the hard skull couldn't stop him from cutting it open. He dug out a fist-sized pearl from Zaysher's skull. Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "Is this pearl also a material?" Song Chao laughed. "It's not a material. It's useless in Hanya Castle, but if you take it away and bring it to a hot place, it'll be a priceless treasure." Lei Xingfeng asked, "What's its use?" Song Chao said, "In a hot place, all you need to do is make a shelf for the pearl, and the temperature in the room will drop. It'll be a strange treasure." Exai and Feng spoke. "This is a pretty good item. He thought, this is a condenser." Song Qiao raised his hand and tossed the pearl to Lei Xingfeng. Take it. I have quite a few of them. Lei Xingfeng asked, Is there anything else we can take from Zaixi's body? Song Qiao said, Nothing else. Zaixi's skin is mixed with ice. Once the ice layer falls off, the skin is useless. Aside from this pearl, Zaici has no other use. Lei Xingfeng laughed. Can't the meat be eaten? Jean Dia said, Zishur's meat can't be eaten. Once it comes in contact with hot water, it will melt immediately. There's nothing left. That's why most cultivators avoid fighting Zishur. Even if you kill this thing, you won't get anything. Other than a bead, you won't get anything. Lei Xingfeng said, Oh, no wonder. If you win, you won't get anything. If you lose, your life will be in danger. Next time I see Zaici, I'll stay away. Song Qiao laughed. Actually, it's nothing. Zaici doesn't have anything useful on him, but this pearl is worth it. It's called the frost pearl. It's a type of precious pearl. In hot places, it'll be more useful than any other material. Lei Xingfeng thought it made sense. In hot places, if he had a frost pearl, he'd be able to sleep better. It was a good thing to enjoy. Xian Zhaoluan said, If that's the case, let's keep looking. Zaixi's attack isn't strong, but he's fast. The ice mist is annoying, but with a Feng's attack, we'll be able to hunt him down easily. Song Qiao said, Since there's one Zaici, there should be others nearby. Zaici are pack creatures. The group followed the tracks left behind by Zaici, heading deeper into the ice cave. The ice cave had two worlds. One was the top of the ice cave, which was the most dangerous place. Not only were there countless ice caves and traps, but there were also strong winds. The other was the world under the ice. Countless ice caves were connected, and there were all kinds of ice beasts moving about. If you weren't careful, you'd die. Following Zishur's footsteps, the group walked for more than an hour before they finally came out. This place was a huge ice cave. This ice cave was made up of several large ice caves. There were dozens of ice pillars in the middle. If one looked carefully, they would see that this wasn't a natural formation. There were countless marks on the ice walls. It was unknown what left them behind. There was a large patch of white and yellow plants growing on the ground, and a few swamp beasts were walking around leisurely. Lei Xingfeng said, They eat plants? Song Qiao said, Yes, their main food isn't plants, but ice with minerals. Plants should be a supplementary food. Lei Xingfeng said, How mysterious. Song Qiao said, This ice cave must be a masterpiece left behind by Zaici. They eat the mineral ice and slowly expand the cave. Just look at the ice walls, and you'll know that these marks were left behind by Zaici. Lei Xingfeng said, No wonder. I thought it was built by someone. Song Qiao said, Zaici aren't worth hunting, but they're capable of opening up an underground habitat for ice beasts. They're also food for many ice beasts. Xian Zhaoluan said, We can see about 7 Zaici here. No, 8. They're spread out in these caves. We'll hunt them one by one. Jean Dia said, Let's work together. Chapter 185. Lei Xingfeng smiled. I'll make the first move, and you guys finish it off. His attacks might not be strong enough, but they could lock the Zissus in place. That would control the Zissus's ability to move quickly. As long as he could restrict its movement, it would be dead for sure. Lei Xingfeng focused on a Zissus. This one. I'll go first, and you guys follow. He was an experienced hunter, and he wasn't any worse than anyone else. The chaos wheel attacked crazily, instantly sending a Zaisu flying. Jean Dia easily followed up and shot out his spear, nailing the Zaisu to the ground. Following that, Xian Feng turned his firepower to another Zaisu not far away. In a few moves, He killed another Xesis. Even Song Qiao nodded in approval. Lei Xingfeng's attributes were too strong. In less than half an hour, all the Xesis in the cave were slaughtered, and Lei Xingfeng obtained another frost pearl. That's enough, Song Qiao said. One frost pearl is enough. There's no need to kill more. Lei Xingfeng and Xian Zhaoluan both agreed. This thing wasn't a material, and the more the better. It was just something to enjoy, and one was enough. There was no need to kill more. Since we're here, Xian Zhaoluan said, ice beasts don't count. It's better to find ores. He was very satisfied with this trip. Not only did he find Bai Yasi, but he also found many purple crystals. This time, he followed Song Qiao and obtained heavenly essence stones. Just heavenly essence stones alone were enough to trade for many things. If he had the chance to continue mining, he wouldn't give it up. Of course, Song Qiao laughed. I've been here many times, and I know a few famous mines. Hee, I'll take you there. With a phone around, you'll definitely get a lot. By now, everyone knew that Lei Xingfeng was unique in mining. Others might be able to dig one mine, but Lei Xingfeng could dig up at least 5 or 8. His efficiency was shocking. Song Yao had also thought it through. Since he couldn't dominate Xian Feng, then he would think of a way to become friends with him. If there was a chance to find a good mine, then he would bring him along. He believed that the harvest would be much better than digging by himself. From this time, he knew that he had wasted a lot of time and effort, and digging by himself wasn't worth it. All right, Xian Zhaoluan said, we'll follow you, senior. Xian Feng asked curiously, what other mines are there? There are a few, Song Qiao said. I've collected them all, but with a phone around, I can't help but want to see how many surprises a phone can bring us. Xian Zhaoluan knew that if a monarch was interested in a mine, it definitely wasn't something a monarch could find. The materials had to be something a monarch needed, so his interest was piqued. Take us there, he said. A phone will definitely surprise us. Xian Feng laughed bitterly. How can there be so many surprises? At this point, he didn't know how to express himself. After hesitating for a while, he said, I'm just lucky. It seemed that only by pushing it to luck could he explain how he could mine like this. Don't be modest, Song Qiao said. This is the first time I've seen such luck. Little guy, if I find a mine in the future, I'll take you with me. What do you think? You'll have a share. Of course, Lei Xingfeng wouldn't refuse such a good thing. All right, I'll follow you, senior. Song Qiao was in a good mood. If he could get someone like Lei Xingfeng, he wouldn't lose out no matter what. Some mines were very difficult to excavate. It wasn't that they couldn't be excavated, but rather that they didn't know where to start. Even if you wanted to, you couldn't find it. But with Lei Xingfeng, things were different. The little guy seemed to know where the ores were. This kind of talent was terrifying. Take me with you, Xian Zhaoluan said. Lei Xingfeng smiled. Of course, senior brother will always take care of me. Song Qiao nodded. All right, I'll take you with me. Xian Zhaoluan was overjoyed. Ever since he met Lei Xingfeng, he found that his luck had improved. He looked at Lei Xingfeng with a gentle gaze. Song Qiao said, Chinya silver, Lesa ore, and heather gravel. Just these 3. How about it? Xian Zhaoluan looked like he'd been hit by a pie. Lesa ore, he stammered. It's really Lesa ore. Is that strange? Song Qiao asked. Oh, I see. You're collecting materials for the hidden door, right? Yes, Xian Zhaoluan said. It's better to prepare early than to prepare on the spot. Lesa ore was also a material for the hidden door. It was used in large quantities, but Xian Zhaoluan didn't know where to find it. He'd originally planned to trade amethysts or heavenly essence stones for it, but after hearing Song Qiao's news that there was Lesa ore here, he was overjoyed. It would be best if he could get it himself. Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, let's go." Song Qiao laughed. "The first place isn't Lesa but Qianya silver. Hee hee, this stuff is too hard to dig up. We'll have to rely on a Feng's luck." Qianya silver wasn't silver, but rather the remains of an ancient insect. It looked like pieces of silver metal, so it was named Qianya silver. It was a material needed by monarchs, and was in high demand among them. Song Qiao's first thought was to use Lei Xingfeng's ability to store up as much as he could to trade for other materials. Everyone knew that no matter how skilled a person was, it was impossible to find all the materials they needed. They had to trade what they found in order to gather everything they needed. Therefore, when discovering a mine, as long as it was possible, they had to gather as much as possible. This was common knowledge to all cultivators. Heather gravel was a very strange material. It was condensed into granules and hidden in the mud. It was also a material used by monarchs. As for what it was used for, only Song Qiao knew. Heather gravel was very difficult to dig up, and it had to be dug out bit by bit. It was very troublesome. Song Qiao led the group through the layers of ice. The ice was more than 1,000 meters thick, so the ice above Lei Xingfeng's head was extremely thick. They sometimes flew up, sometimes fell underground. Fortunately, everyone knew how to fly. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to move forward. There were some places that required everyone to work together to break through the ice layer. Xianfeng had already noticed that Song Qiao wasn't walking according to the path she knew, but instead, she was walking in a certain direction. Thinking about it, there were countless ice caves here. It was impossible to remember the path here. One could only follow the directions. It took them 2 days to get there. Fortunately, they didn't have to worry about being unable to return. With the secret door, they could stay in the ice cave for a long time. Finally, Song Qiao stopped and smiled. "Qianya silver is in front of us. I hope no one will disturb us in the next few days." After passing through several ice caves and cracks, Lei Xingfeng's group saw a spectacular scene. A rocky cliff appeared in front of them. It was a huge mountain buried in ice. Perhaps some of the peaks were exposed above the ice, but the huge body of the mountain was buried under the ice. There was a distance between the ice and the cliff, and the top was sealed by a layer of ice. This formed a huge space, extending along the cliff into the distance. Lei Xingfeng pointed at the cliff. "Is it here?" Song Qiao smiled. "We're almost there. Qianya silver is inside the mountain. There's a cave that we can enter." Lei Xingfeng glanced around and saw many colors of light. He immediately knew that there was a mine in the mountain, and there might even be more than one type of mine. However, he didn't have enough experience to know what kind of mine it was. They walked along the cliff for a while, breaking through several ice cliffs and forcing their way forward. After about 2 hours, Song Qiao smiled. "Haha, we found it. This place has always been difficult to find. We have to find this mountain first before we can find the cave." In fact, strictly speaking, this was not a cave. To be more precise, it was a crack in the cliff. The top was completely sealed by a layer of ice, so there was still light coming in from the crack. Although it was not very bright, with everyone's vision, they could clearly see what was inside. Song Qiao took the lead and entered. "I've been here a few times. Each time, I didn't get much. Luckily, I didn't use much, so it was barely enough. Qianya silver is just too hard to find." They walked along the crack for about 10 minutes until they reached a cave. It was wide at the bottom and narrow at the top. It was triangular in shape. Mad Eagle took out a stick of oil wood and lit it up. He held it in his hand like a torch, illuminating the surroundings. The ground was full of gravel, and the rock walls were full of potholes. Lei Xingfeng knew that they had entered the mining area. Xian Feng focused his gaze, and as expected, he could see specks of silver light. His lips couldn't help but curl up. He didn't know what was wrong with his eyes to be able to see ores like this. He didn't know he had this ability before. Song Qiao had been paying attention to Lei Xingfeng's expression. Seeing the smile on Lei Xingfeng's face, he immediately relaxed and said, "Afeng, what do you think?" Although he knew it was useless to ask, he still couldn't help but ask. Lei Xingfeng smiled. "All right, I'll guide you. You guys dig." With experience, Lei Xingfeng directly used a stone to draw circles on the rock wall. He said, "Dig according to the circles I drew. Be careful not to damage them." Lei Xingfeng followed the rock wall and drew circles one by one. There were big circles and small circles. Starting from Song Qiao, everyone picked a circle and started digging. With a clear goal, it was easy for them to dig. Soon, Sister Hong was the first to harvest. She dug up the first piece of Qinya silver. Chapter 186. Sister Hong obtained her first piece of thousand-leaf silver, and Lei Xingfeng also dug up his first piece of thousand-leaf silver. He had drawn dozens of circles, and it was enough for everyone to dig. So he also chose a circle and started digging. The excavation of thousand-leaf silver was very interesting. The rocks here were in the shape of sheets, and one had to smash down a large piece to determine if there was thousand-leaf silver inside. If one felt that there was, one would use a small hammer to knock down layers of rock, and the thousand-leaf silver would be inside the rock layer. Lei Xingfeng could accurately determine if there was thousand-leaf silver in the large piece of rock that was knocked down. With this technique, he quickly obtained a piece of thousand-leaf silver. It really was the remains of an ancient insect that looked like a leaf. Even if it was taken out at this time, it still had a complete shape like a soft metal. It was an extremely thin piece, only the size of a child's palm, and was extremely beautiful. It had a head, a body, and 8 pairs of extremely small legs. In a short period of time, Lei Xingfeng had already peeled off 8 pieces of thousand-leaf silver. The others also started to gain something. Because the thousand-leaf silver was extremely thin and hidden in the rock layer, if one was not careful, they would overlook it. In the process of peeling off the rock, it was very likely that they would peel off a useless layer, and the layer with thousand-leaf silver would be overlooked. Therefore, even if they had the range that Lei Xingfeng had drawn, their gains were still not as good as Lei Xingfeng's. Basically, there was a circle every 3 to 5 meters that extended all the way into the depths of the cave. Lei Xingfeng was digging in the deepest part of the cave. Behind him, a pile of oil wood was burning. Not only could it be used for warmth, it could also illuminate the surroundings. Song Yao carefully peeled off the rock layer. His speed was very slow, but he was the most stable. He found that if he carefully peeled off the rocks in the area that Lei Xingfeng had drawn, he would definitely gain something. In a short period of time, he had already peeled off 3 pieces of thousand-leaf silver, and 2 of them were damaged. Thousand-leaf silver was very important in its integrity. Once it was broken, its value would plummet. A half-meter-tall rock was smashed down, and then it needed to be handled patiently. Peeling off the rock layer by layer was a very meticulous work, and it was also very tiring. Those who were impatient would not be able to endure it at all. Fortunately, Xian Zhaoluan and the others were not young anymore. To be able to cultivate to the 9th ring, who had not suffered great hardships. One by one, they all patiently collected leaf silver. This kind of opportunity might only come once in a lifetime, and no one would waste it. This time, whoever dug it out would own it. There was no need to divide it evenly, so everyone worked very hard. When Lei Xingfeng collected his 10th piece of thousand-leaf silver, the one who had the most was Song Yao. He had only collected 5, complete pieces of thousand-leaf silver. He was already very satisfied with 3 pieces of broken thousand-leaf silver. One had to know that when he came to mine in the past, he would only be able to collect 2 to 3 complete pieces of thousand-leaf silver in an entire day. The rest would be broken. This was also why he felt that thousand-leaf silver was so difficult to obtain. This time, according to Song Yao, they would only stay for 10 days. After 10 days, they would immediately go to the Lahu mine. That was the mine that Xian Zhaoluan was most interested in. 10 days was very short. Everyone worked hard to dig out more thousand-leaf silver, hoping that they would be able to obtain enough thousand-leaf silver before leaving. After 10 hours of work, Lei Xingfeng had collected more than 400 complete pieces of thousand-leaf silver. As for the broken pieces, Lei Xingfeng basically gave them up. He was too lazy to peel off these broken pieces. If he had the time, he would rather look for complete pieces of thousand-leaf silver. Even if one peeled off a complete piece of thousand-leaf silver, it would take a lot of patience to peel off a piece of thousand-leaf silver. If one was not careful, they would fail. This thing was very fragile. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng carefully put the thousand-leaf silver into boxes. Because the thousand-leaf silver was very thin, 50 pieces could only fit into one small box. After 10 hours of work, he only managed to put a little more than 8 boxes. Song Yao had collected more than 100 pieces of thousand-leaf silver in 10 hours. The number of broken pieces was more than 400. It was no wonder. Lei Xingfeng could directly sense which layer had thousand-leaf silver. Song Yao, on the other hand, didn't have this ability, so it was inevitable that she would be careless. Even so, Song Yao was very satisfied. This harvest was already more than what she had gotten in 2 trips. The others had at least 50 to 60 pieces of thousand-leaf silver. Everyone was very satisfied. According to Song Yao, 1 piece of thousand-leaf silver could be exchanged for at least 1 yin ring. If the opportunity was good, and they happened to meet a monarch who needed thousand-leaf silver, it wasn't impossible to exchange 1 piece of thousand-leaf silver for 2 or 3 yin rings. Eating, sleeping, mining. In these 10 days, no one dared to slack off, other than Lei Xingfeng, who could still guarantee his own rest and cultivation. Everyone else's time was basically spent on mining. This opportunity was too hard to come by. It would be unthinkable to let it go. Although Lei Xingfeng was also very hardworking, he was still lacking compared to the others. However, his harvest was much more than the others. He only worked about 10 hours a day. The rest of the time was spent on cultivation, sleep, and familiarizing himself with the chaos wheel and Lei. Just by mining for 10 hours, his harvest was frightening. He had collected more than 5,000 pieces of thousand-leaf silver, and all of them were complete pieces. Other than Lei Xingfeng, Song Yao's harvest wasn't small either. She had almost 2,000 pieces of thousand-leaf silver. Of course, there were even more broken pieces. After resting for half a day, Song Yao led the group back on the road. The Laka mine was very close to the thousand-leaf silver mine. It was also in this mountain, but they had to go around to the other side. It took them 2 days to reach their destination. Xian Feng reached his destination and immediately understood this was a cave that was dug into the cliff. Who knew how many people had come here? There were broken stones everywhere. The entire cliff was filled with holes, some deep, some shallow. The cliff was filled with holes. The ground was filled with small mountains of broken stones. This is the place, Song Qiao said. It's the famous Laka mine. Many monarchs have come here before. Everyone, be careful. If you meet someone, try not to get into a fight. The chances of meeting a monarch here are quite high. Many newly ascended monarchs come here in search of Laka or to refine their own secret door. There are also ninth ring sages, like Xian Zhaoluan, who come here in advance to prepare materials. Lei Xingfeng understood that sages like Jean Dia had a slight chance of breaking through. Sages like Jean Dia definitely wouldn't come here to dig for La Ka mine. They had no hope of breaking through at all. They would be satisfied if they could reach the level of a 9th ring sage. La Ka mine was a type of crystal that had to be refined with Bia silk, void crystal, and other materials to form the main body of a secret door. Therefore, La Ka mine was an indispensable material for a monarch. This was a green crystal. It was only as thick as a pinky finger and about an inch long. These things were basically found in nests in the rocks. Either one couldn't dig out a single large lachi crystal, or one could dig out a nest of large lachi crystals. This was the reason why there were pits of all sizes on the cliff. The people who came here to dig were all trying their luck. Even if they dug randomly, they would still gain something. Xian Feng observed carefully, but couldn't see any signs the surface layer of Lahu ores had been completely wiped clean. There were no signs at all. This place should be empty. I don't know if there's more inside. Lei Xingfeng said, regretfully. Xian Zhaoluan immediately tensed up. No more? A Feng, that can't be, right? Xian Zhaoluan looked extremely disappointed. Song Qiao laughed. It'd be a miracle if there was more. The surface layer is long gone. Follow me, I know where we can find more. He flew up along the cliff. The others followed suit. Above them was a huge cave. The entrance to the cliff looked like it had been gnawed by a dog. The entrance was about 10 meters high and 20 meters wide. It was a very large mine. Song Qiao smiled. Back then, a vein of ore was found here. The person who found it made a fortune. He used the La Ka mine to trade for all the materials he needed to make a secret door. He even got more than 3. Later on, he became known as the monarch of 3 doors. Others used 1 door, but he used 3. He also used the La Ka mine to trade for a large number of Yin rings. He trained a large number of subordinates, all of them 8th and 9th ringed experts. Xian Zhaoluan was shocked. 3 secret doors? How much material would that require? Terrifying. Song Qiao said. 3 secret doors, plus the experts he trained. He could go to many places to mine. This guy is a millionaire, famous even among the monarchs. Lei Xingfeng said, was this where the vein was found? Song Qiao said, yes, it was here. Even now, the La Ka mine hasn't been emptied, even though many people have come. All right, let's go in and look. We'll have to rely on a Feng again. Maybe we can find another vein. We'll be rich. It was a good wish, but as Lei Xingfeng went deeper into the vein, he found that it had been thoroughly excavated. Once a vein of ore was found, and the La Ka mine was a necessity for monarchs, how could there still be a lot left? It was unrealistic. Going all the way to the bottom, Xian Feng didn't find anything, not even a small vein. He spoke, I'll go out and search, although this cliff has been emptied. I believe that as long as there's still a La Ka mine, I'll be able to find it. Everyone heard this and followed Lei Xingfeng out. Lei Xingfeng didn't pay attention to the excavated cliff anymore. He flew along the cliff until he was blocked by a layer of ice. Lei Xingfeng said, break this layer of ice. Let's go take a look. Song Qiao personally went out and broke the ice that was connected to the cliff. Soon, they arrived at another cliff. There were a few caves here and there, but they were all very shallow. Xian Zhaoluan said, someone dug here too. Well, only a little. Maybe there's nothing here at all. Chapter 187. Song Qiao said, many people have tried, but none have been able to find a large chunk. A Feng, come and take a look. He looked at Lei Xingfeng expectantly. Up until now, the little guy had never disappointed him. Lei Xingfeng stared at the cliff, sweeping his gaze around. He shook his head. There really isn't one. Strange, how could this be? He hung his head dejectedly. Suddenly, a green light flashed in front of his eyes. He immediately checked. Beneath their feet was a layer of ice, and the entire mountain was buried in it. The green light was coming from below. Lei Xingfeng became excited. Dig along the cliff and break the ice, he said. There's something down there. Song Qiao asked, surprised. Xian Zhaolun didn't say a word. He immediately began to attack the ice beneath their feet. Soon, an ice cave was created. They continued to attack along the ice cave, and in a short while, they arrived in front of the cliff below. Lei Xingfeng pointed at the cliff and laughed. Ha ha, this must be a vein of ore. The cliff in front of him was covered in a layer of green light. Strangely, only he could see this light. The others could not see this layer of light at all. Song Qiao's attack caused a large chunk of the cliff to collapse, revealing a dense layer of crystals. Everyone was dumbfounded. Xian Zhaolun looked at Lei Xingfeng with a strange expression. It's true. I'm so damn lucky. Ha 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 ha. Song Qiao couldn't help but shake his head. He'd been here a few times before, but only after the 1,000-leaf silver had been mined did he come to pick up the leftovers. He'd worked so hard to get a small chunk of laka, or he hadn't expected there to be a vein of or hidden here. Dig hard. This is hard currency. You can exchange it for anything. Everyone began to dig hard, following the vein into the mountain. Since Lei Xingfeng was leading 3 people, he didn't ask for much. Even if it was an even split, he would still get more than the others. This was a small mineral vein, but it contained an extremely rich amount of lachi, or after it was dug out, all they had to do was pick it up. It was really a nest of nests. As they dug down, everyone had a bountiful harvest. It was just the beginning, and Xian Zhaolun had already collected enough great laka crystals to create the secret door. The rest of the crystals could be used to exchange for other materials. Xian Zhaolun was grinning from ear to ear. This fellow was about to die from laughter. How could there be such a good thing? Coming to Hanya Castle, he actually managed to obtain so many materials. He reminded himself again, if he was going to search for materials, he had to bring Lei Xingfeng along no matter what. This guy was a super lucky baby. Although Song Yao didn't need the llama crystals anymore, who would complain about having more materials? At this rate, he was confident that he could create another secret door. Even if he didn't, he could make his own weapons and use the crystals to exchange for materials. After this vein was dug out, he estimated that he would have enough materials to trade for. After a full 24 days, the group had dug out the entire vein. With Lei Xingfeng around, not a single great laka crystal was left. Lei Xingfeng checked again, then said, "Very good, there's nothing left. We've dug it all out." Song Qiao said, "Let's find a place to eat and rest." Although he was a monarch, digging like this was a bit tiring. Lei Xingfeng and the others were even more tired, with dark circles under their eyes. Lei Xingfeng also said, "Yeah, I'm exhausted. I'm hungry and cold. It's best to warm up and have some soup." Jean Dia said, "I agree. We really need to rest, even if it's just for a day." Song Qiao said, "Come with me. We'll find a place to rest on the way to the Heather gravel mine." Everyone agreed and followed Song Qiao out of the Great Laka mine. It was a very large ice cave, less than 100 meters from the ground. Due to the fact that more light could pass through, this ice cave was very bright, especially for those who came out from the depths of the ground. They would definitely be able to see everything clearly. Among the blue light, a ray of red light scattered. It was a large bonfire burning with oil wood. On top of it was an enormous copper pot, big enough for an ordinary person to bathe in. Inside was all kinds of meat and vegetables. including a large pot of mixed vegetables. This was something Lei Xingfeng had first created in this world. No matter who ate it, they all said it was good. A group of people sat around the bonfire, each one wrapped in thick furs and sleeping. Xianfeng had already slept for a while. He was actually still fine, as he didn't have to work too hard while excavating the Thousand Leaves silver mine. He was only a bit tired from excavating the Laka mine, but after a short rest, he felt much better, staring at the large copper pot. He occasionally added some dried vegetables and salted meat. He realized that although the food he had collected was enough, the variety was still lacking, especially when cooking this kind of chowder. It required a large amount of different ingredients. Only then would it taste good. Lei Xingfeng also realized that there were a few ingredients that couldn't be put together. Otherwise, the taste wouldn't be good. He was still thinking about how to make the most delicious mixed vegetables. After drinking a bowl of hot soup, Lei Xingfeng felt his whole body relax. Although it wasn't as cold as outside, the cold was still very strong. It invaded his body bit by bit, and it was definitely uncomfortable. Drinking a bowl of hot soup seemed to expel the cold from his body. Those who had woken up also began to eat. Soon, the sound of eating and drinking filled the air, forcing those who were sleeping to get up. They were all starving. The group ate a whole pot of vegetables and meat, plus large pieces of flatbread. Lei Xingfeng ate until he couldn't eat any more. He ate 6 flatbread the size of a pot lid, and 10 more bowls of meat. He ate until he was sweating all over. Song Qiao rubbed his stomach. I haven't eaten so much in a long time. Sigh, why didn't I get a disciple like this? If it weren't for the fact that Lei Xingfeng's master was powerful, Song Qiao would have captured Lei Xingfeng. This person was too useful. Whether it was mining or cooking, he made people feel comfortable. He sighed in his heart, then let it go. If he couldn't have him, then he might as well try to be friends. Lei Xingfeng said, We've been here for so long and haven't seen a single person. Ha ha. Song Qiao said, That's right. It would be bad if we met someone here. Lei Xingfeng asked, Why? Song Qiao said, Those who can get here are usually led by monarchs. Do you think that's good? Monarchs aren't easy to talk to. Lei Xingfeng said, Senior, you're very easy to talk to. Song Qiao said, That's with you guys. It's not necessarily the same with outsiders. He never admitted that he was a good person. If outsiders were pleasing to the eye, then so be it. But if they weren't pleasing to the eye, then he'd still want to kill them. Monarchs were powerful, so most of them did as they pleased. They were many times more dangerous than sages. There was nothing that could stop a monarch. Only someone stronger than a monarch could stop a monarch. But how many monarchs were there in a world? Song Qiao didn't even ask for Xian Zhaowen's opinion in the extreme cold. Even if it brought danger, he didn't hesitate. That was the nature of a monarch. After eating, drinking, and sleeping, everyone's spirits were rejuvenated. Everyone's eyes were shining, and they were full of energy. Although mining was extremely boring, the joy of the harvest completely overwhelmed the boredom. Especially when they were resting just now, everyone was secretly calculating their harvest. As long as they calculated it clearly, no one was able to maintain their calm. Everyone was grinning from ear to ear, and even Sister Hong was no exception. Song Qiao was also very excited. He waved his hand and said, Let's go. It was another long journey, but this time no one complained. They all followed Song Qiao in silence. Lei Xingfeng had never seen a heather gravel mine before and didn't know what it was used for. But if a monarch remembered it, then it was important. He didn't need it now, but that didn't mean he wouldn't in the future. He felt very lucky to have the opportunity to come into contact with a high-grade mine. For days past, the distance between the heather gravel mine and the Laka mine was quite far. It took them 4 days to reach their destination. The heather gravel mine had to reach the bottom of the ice layer, which meant that it had to go deep into the ground. The ice layer here was 3,000 meters deep, and it was pitch black. Not a single ray of light could pass through. The ice layer was too thick. Everyone had a torch made of oil wood. Lei Xingfeng found that there was a lot of space between the ice and the ground. The temperature was also quite high. According to Lei Xingfeng's estimation, it was around 0 degrees. For them, this temperature was no longer enough to wear fur coats. Everyone took off their thick coats and changed into their daily clothes. Lei Xingfeng only wore his leather armor, which was made for him by his little sister, Yao Yao. They didn't walk far before they heard the sound of running water. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Is it a river or a stream?" "It's a stream," Song Qiao said. "There are many streams here." The water was very shallow, and the water was very cold. There were many small fish and prawns in it. Although there was no light, there was still a thick layer of moss on the ground. The moss here was all white, and under the light of the torch, it emitted a faint red light. Lei Xingfeng stepped into the stream, and the cold water poured into his boots. He shivered. What cold water? He was already floating in the air. Song Qiao laughed. "Don't step on the ground. Not far ahead is a swamp. You'll sink in." Everyone flew up, their feet at least a foot above the ground. This way, they wouldn't lose their footing and fall into the water. Lei Xingfeng's feet crackled with electricity, and in an instant, his boots were dry. He was secretly proud that he didn't need to change his shoes. "We need to fly higher," Song Qiao said. "Hurry up." Everyone did as they were told. Song Qiao quickly said, "Okay, we're here." The ground was pitch black. Even with the light of the torch, it was still pitch black. Song Qiao flew a short distance to the left, then threw the torch in his hand. Boom! A ball of flame rose, and everyone saw a stone groove. It was full of oil wood. The torch was thrown in, and the fire quickly ignited. Chapter 188. There were a total of 6 similar stone platforms, and there was quite a bit of greasewood on them. Song Qiao placed a pile of greasewood on each platform and reignited the fire. The surroundings became brightly lit. Lei Xingfeng looked at the large open space. There were still many puddles on the ground, and he was completely dumbfounded. "The heather gravel is here? Senior Song, can you dig a bit for me to see?" He couldn't see any signs at all. "All right, I'll demonstrate," Song Qiao said. As he spoke, he hovered half a foot above the ground and circled around the muddy ground. After inspecting it back and forth, he took out a huge steel shovel and aimed it at a piece of muddy ground. With a shovel, a large piece of mud was dug out. Then he flew to the side of the stone platform and began to examine the black mud. After a while, he found a heather gravel in the mud. It was only the size of a thumb and was dark red in color. Song Yao had only found one in a shovel of mud. He said, "There are heather gravels everywhere, but you might not be able to find them when you dig. Most of the soil is empty. Hee, I was lucky this time and found a heather gravel." Lei Xingfeng took the gravel. "It's soft?" he asked in surprise. "Yes," Song Qiao said. "It'll be as hard as iron when the wind blows." "How about it? Can you find it quickly?" Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly and shook his head. "I don't think so. Let me try." Song Qiao took out a few steel shovels and handed them to everyone. "Then let's try our luck. This is a pretty good material. If we can collect more, we can exchange it for yin rings." His words immediately piqued everyone's interest. Xianfeng was still observing. As this was the first time he came into contact with minerals in the mud, he didn't know how to search for them. Slowly, he got used to the light here. As the only light here was the flame on the stone platform, the light wasn't stable and affected his observation. Squinting his eyes, Xian Feng stared at the ground, slowly noticing some changes. He could indeed see the red glow coming from the ground, but due to the red glow from the bonfire, if he didn't look carefully, he wouldn't be able to notice it. With a shovel, Xian Feng dug out a large pile of dirt. He brought this shovel of dirt to the side of the stone platform. There were a total of 2 pieces of heather gravel. The others shoveled one after the other. Not even a shadow of the heather gravel could be seen. Song Qiao had been paying attention to Lei Xingfeng. When he saw the first shovel, he immediately followed. When he saw the 2 heather gravels, he couldn't help but sigh. Your luck is out of this world. You found it on your first shovel. Lei Xingfeng laughed and started digging again. In just half a day, other than Xian Feng, who found a few dozen heather gravel, Song Yao only found 7, and the others didn't even have that many. The worst was Feng Ying, who only found 1 heather gravel after half a day, causing him to feel depressed. Song Qiao smiled bitterly. He thought Lei Xingfeng could give him some pointers, but he understood that even Lei Xingfeng only found a little more than the others. Feng, he asked, is it hard to dig here? Xian Feng nodded. And I'm still thinking of ways to find a large area of ores, but this place has already been excavated. It's hard to find much heather gravel. We're only excavating ores left behind by others. The amount is too little. There were even stone platforms here. One could imagine how many people had dug here. Why don't we look around? Song Qiao asked. In fact, he wasn't confident. Countless people had already searched this area. Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and said, that's a good idea. Too much has been dug up here. There are only a few heather gravels left. No matter how hard we try, we won't be able to find much. It's a waste of time and energy. It's not worth it. Song Qiao also admitted this point. The reason why he brought Xian Feng and the others here was because of Xian Feng's shocking performance in the Dala Sha mining area, actually finding a new vein of ore, allowing them to earn a large sum. Xian Feng brought Jean Dia with him, the 2 of them holding torches as they wandered around, trying to find new heather gravel mines. After a big circle, they found a lot of heather gravels. However, there weren't many of them, only a few dozen. Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia dug them up and found a few hundred heather gravels. Song Qiao waited until Lei Xingfeng came back and asked, how is it? Did you find anything? Lei Xingfeng shook his head. No, only a few small mines. We found a little bit of heather gravels. It's too little. Song Qiao sighed. Forget it. If that's the case, let's dig up as much as we can. It's rare for us to come here. Even if we don't dig up much, at least we have some savings. Lei Xingfeng said, let's dig with our luck. After a few days of hard work, everyone was dispirited. They didn't have much to gain, so naturally, they didn't have much energy left. Lei Xingfeng didn't dig with the others. Instead, he took Jean Dia to wander around. The 2 of them found a lot of heather gravels. Even the smallest mines had dozens of heather gravels. If they found a bigger mine, it wouldn't be surprising to find a few hundred. The 2 of them hoarded bit by bit. By the time everyone was ready to leave, he and Jean Dia had collected a few thousand heather gravels. Lei Xingfeng sighed. It's too little. If it was a normal mine, we could get at least 10,000, maybe even 100,000. I don't even know what we can do with a few thousand. Jean Dia laughed. Don't complain. You should know that Old Eagle and Old Tiger didn't even dig up 100. We've already got so much more than them. Lei Xingfeng said, I understand now. This mine is a waste mine. It's not worth digging. Jean Dia said, waste mine? The problem is that you can't even find a waste mine. If Senior Song didn't bring us here, we wouldn't even be able to find a waste mine, let alone harvest it. This amount of heather gravels can be exchanged for a lot of rings. He was quite satisfied. Lei Xingfeng said, I still don't know what use heather gravels have. Jean Dia said, it's nothing. Just keep it. You know it's good stuff, so don't use it carelessly. When you need it, you can save a lot of time and energy. Lei Xingfeng thought of the bone he collected in the past. It turned out to be the most suitable material for refining Leine. When he first got it, he didn't know what use it had, so he was very optimistic about the prospects of hoarding materials. Even if he didn't know what use it had, he would store it in his hidden Luan space. Luckily, he had the hidden Luan space. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to hoard materials. After coming to this world, the thing that surprised and satisfied him the most was the hidden Luan space. With it, he had a home. The two of them returned, laughing. Song Yao still didn't give up. He said, Afeng, did you find anything? Lei Xingfeng shook his head. This is definitely a waste mine. No one will come here. There are no veins around, only a few tiny spots. It's not worth much. Song Yao sighed again. He said, I was too greedy. Hee, all right, let's go back. Xian Zhaoluan smiled. The harvest is already good enough. Hee, I didn't expect to collect so many Lahu ores. Just this one mine. Everything is worth it. It was very convenient to go back. There was no need to travel through mountains and rivers, especially in the ice cave plains. At this time, there was no way to go up. There was definitely a violent snowstorm above, and it was impossible to fly. Then, who would dare to walk on the ice covered with ice caves? But with Song Yao's secret door, they just had to open it. And the destination of the secret door was Xian Zhaoluan's courtyard. A few minutes later, they returned to Hanya Castle. There weren't many people in Hanya Castle. Most of the outsiders had left. This was the best time to go to many places in Hanya Castle. Song Yao walked out of the secret door. He suddenly thought of something and said, Afeng, where did you guys dig up the purple crystals? Lei Xingfeng smiled. We didn't dig them up. We fished them out of the magma. Song Yao said, Bayasi, oh, I understand. You guys went deep into the ground, right? Can you give me the address? Lei Xingfeng looked at Xian Zhaoluan. This mine was brought by Xian Zhaoluan, so he couldn't make the decision. Xian Zhaoluan didn't mind. He collected enough materials this time. Plus, Song Yao was a monarch. He didn't dare to offend him. Plus, Song Yao brought them to 3 mines. He could not tell Song Yao the location. Song Yao got the exact location. He said, I owe you one. Yes, 2. I can help you twice in the future. Xian Zhaoluan felt that it was worth it. Monarchs might do whatever they want, but monarchs' promises were very powerful. They rarely went back on their promises. Once they promised something, they would do their best to fulfill it. Plus, monarch strength was the guarantee of this kind of promise. Song Yao got the address and left. But before he left, he pulled Lei Xingfeng into a room and whispered for a long time. After Song Yao left, Xian Zhaoluan smiled. Afeng, what did Senior Song say? Lei Xingfeng smiled. Senior Song and I made an appointment to go to another place to dig. But my strength is low. When I reach 8th ring, he will come find me. Everyone's eyes were filled with envy. This was a monarch bringing him to find resources. Not to mention other things, just how many materials could he gather? Plus, he didn't have to waste time looking for veins. He just had to follow. Xian Zhaoluan smiled. If Senior takes you there, call me. Lei Xingfeng agreed. He also wanted to help Xian Zhaoluan. After all, he was his senior brother. He could help him a lot. Xian Zhaoluan said, We got a lot this time. When the time is up, We will go back. During this time, everyone should cultivate. The effect of cultivating here is excellent. Don't waste it. Chapter 189. Lei Xingfeng nodded in agreement. Even when he was mining, he didn't stop cultivating. He could feel his cultivation growing rapidly. Of course, there was still a difference between this and cultivating in a thunderstorm. There was a benefit to cultivating here that Lei Xingfeng attached great importance to. It was different from cultivating in a thunderstorm, where his cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds, while his yin force would be very violent. Cultivating here would be very gentle, and it would be beneficial for him to adjust his yin force. After returning to his room, Lei Xingfeng rested for a bit, and then began to cultivate. With Lei Yin, Lei Xingfeng found that cultivating had become easier than before. When his yin force passed through Lei Yin, there would be a slight difference, as if it had been purified. The chaos wheel and Lei Yin would interact with each other. The chaos wheel would swallow a portion of the yin force. Although it would only swallow a small amount each time, the entire chaos wheel would change little by little. This change was something that Lei Xingfeng couldn't control for now. He would need time to understand it bit by bit. Lei Xingfeng currently had two treasures. One was Lei Yin, and the other was the chaos wheel. Lei Yin could ensure that he would advance smoothly, and the chaos wheel was his only offensive weapon. It was a very rare attribute weapon that could grow together with him. As he cultivated, Lei Xingfeng was surprised to find that the chaos wheel was transmitting information to him. It's actually just a half-finished product. Once I reach Monarch, I can still use the chaos wheel. Lei Xingfeng was greatly surprised. Of course, if he wanted to use the chaos wheel after reaching Monarch, he would need to add a lot of materials to refine it and cultivate at the same time. It was a very strange attribute weapon. He vaguely felt that he had obtained an amazing treasure. As for how amazing it was, he would need time to test it out. He slowly received the information from the chaos wheel. This information wasn't written, but a very strange feeling. There were also images that occasionally flashed in his mind. Because he had only cultivated for a short time, he couldn't completely understand it. At this time, Lei Xingfeng discovered that the chaos wheel could not only be used for attack, but also for defense. It was a very rare offensive and defensive weapon. This was also the first time that Lei Yin had succeeded. Following Lei Xingfeng's advancement, Lei Yin could refine again, which would require all sorts of materials. Actually, Lei Xingfeng didn't know that his current method was similar to that of a true monarch. A true monarch would also need to expend countless materials and energy for all sorts of equipment. In other words, from today onwards, Lei Xingfeng would have to constantly search for all kinds of materials in order to improve the quality of Lei Yin and the chaos wheel. This way, they would be able to improve the quality of Lei Yin and the chaos wheel along with his cultivation. In the future, the task of improving Lei Yin and the chaos wheel would not only be cultivation, but also refining. The time that one could stay in Hanya Castle was usually half a year to a year. During this time, the cultivators that came in would either search for all kinds of ores and materials or stay in Hanya Castle to cultivate. Most of the cultivators chose to search for ores and materials. After all, they were able to come here because of their sex mission. Only a small number of cultivators had the time to cultivate. Miao Ling didn't step out of her room and cultivated in her room. Her most sensible choice was to bring Sister home. Using the opportunity of following Xi and Jiaoluan, she obtained a lot of high-level ores and materials. These were all good things that could be used to exchange for yin rings. Lei Xingfeng's harvest was even greater. Not only did he obtain the star python record made by Lei Yin, he also obtained the chaos wheel. He also found a lot of ores and materials. He even discovered a skill that allowed him to quickly find our veins and locations. This was extremely beneficial to his growth. It wasn't obvious yet, but as his strength increased, the places he could go to would increase. This trait would bring him countless benefits. Other than cultivating, Lei Xingfeng basically didn't go out. As he cultivated arduously before he left Hanya Castle, he finally broke through again and reached the level of a 7th ring sage. Lei Yin and the chaos will also started refining again. The materials were basically exchanged with others. After all, the materials he had were very precious. It was easy to exchange them for some normal materials. 7th ring sage, Lei Xingfeng's strength increased by a lot, especially with Lei Yin and the chaos wheel. Although he hadn't tested it yet, he was confident that he could fight against an 8th ring sage. Even if he couldn't win, he definitely wouldn't lose. During this time, Xian Zhaoluan brought Jin Daya out a few times. After Jin Daya came back, he told Lei Xingfeng that Xian Zhaoluan had exchanged a lot of materials. He even found Song Yao and exchanged some materials for secret door refining. Lei Xingfeng didn't mind. He wholeheartedly immersed himself in cultivation until he broke through. Only then did he stop and wait to return to his sect. After resting for a few days, Xian Zhaoluan gathered everyone and said, "It's about time. My mission this time is complete. Time is almost up. In another 15 minutes, we will leave here. Everyone, pack your things. Oh, right, Chuizi and Guangfu are also here to say goodbye. If you come here by yourselves in the future, you can hire them." Chuizi and Guangfu hadn't seen them for a while. Their tempers were good, and they got along well with everyone. Lei Xingfeng even left a pile of food for them, which made Chuizi and Guangfu very grateful. Hunting here was getting harder and harder, and the natives were becoming more and more dependent on the foreign cultivators. They relied on them to bring in an endless supply of food, so they had to build a good relationship with the cultivators. Chuizi pulled on Lei Xingfeng and looked at him eagerly. Lei Xingfeng felt a chill run down his spine. You probably wouldn't be able to stand being held by a 2-meter-tall native. What was even weirder was that the native was looking at you with a pair of innocent eyes. Lei Xingfeng said, Okay, I will definitely look for you in the future." Chuizi immediately smiled. This guy looked reckless, but in reality, he wasn't. He had already discovered that Lei Xingfeng really did have food, and he was extremely generous. He didn't even blink when he gave out food. He even took out a large pile of food. If he didn't curry favor with this kind of person, who else could he curry favor with? "It's a promise. You must look for me and Guangfu." Of course. Okay, let go. Chuizi hurriedly let go and purposely laughed a few times. Then he went to look for someone else. It was a routine that he was familiar with, but in the end, he hit a wall. It wasn't a big problem to grab anyone's hand, but grabbing Miaoling's hand was a big problem. He was kicked by Sister Hong. Everyone laughed. Lei Xingfeng said, "Chuizi, don't be in a hurry to catch people. We should also go. Don't worry, I will definitely look for you in the future." Chuizi didn't mind. He had thick skin, and being kicked didn't hurt at all. Plus, Sister Hong only stopped him from grabbing Miaoling's hand. She didn't want to hurt him. When the secret door suddenly appeared, Lei Xingfeng knew that it was time to leave. Following Xian Zhaoluan, Lei Xingfeng stepped into the secret door and instantly returned to the secret hidden space. In the room of the founder smiled as he looked at the people coming out of the secret door. He waited until everyone had entered before closing the door. Wu Yong smiled as he looked at everyone and nodded. "Seems like the harvest is not small." The little girl actually advanced to the 6th ring true body. Little brat, I remember you were 5 ring. You have already advanced to 7 ring. Amazing, the higher the rank, the harder it is to advance. You seem to have it easy, even your seventh ring true body has already stabilized. Good. Ever since Miao Ling arrived at Hanya Castle, she didn't go out at all. She had been hiding in her room and cultivating, from 4-ring true body to 6. Lei Xingfeng was also very powerful, advancing from 5-ring to 7-ring. One must know that the higher the rank, the harder it is to advance. This was something that everyone understood. Lei Xingfeng advanced faster than Miao Ling. Although both of them advanced by 2 rings, the value of their advancement was completely different. Lei Xingfeng smiled. That is indeed a very good place to cultivate, but it was too cold. I almost froze to death. Wu Yang smiled. Extreme cold weather, as long as you are prepared, it is nothing. Lei Xingfeng smiled. It is useless no matter how prepared we are. Someone barged in and almost froze us to death. Luckily, we reacted quickly, otherwise we would be in big trouble. Wu Yang immediately showed a trace of anger. Who is so daring? Xian Zhaoluan said, It is a true monarch. His room was so cold that it cracked. Coincidentally, it was the coldest few days of the extreme cold, so he directly barged into our room. Wu Yang said, True monarch. Humph, true monarchs are also divided into different ranks. I think he is just a wandering ghost. Lei Xingfeng was shocked. Ancestor, how did you know? Wu Yang said, I don't need to guess. Only this kind of wandering ghost would have such an awkward moment. What happened next? He revealed a gossipy expression, which made Lei Xingfeng laugh. He didn't expect the ancestor to like gossiping too. Lei Xingfeng said, We became friends after that. He brought us to the underground of the ice cave plains and found 3 mining areas. We dug up many good things. Hee. Wu Yang said, Oh, what good things? Lei Xingfeng said, Yes, there was 1,000-leaf silver, great Laha crystal, and heather gravel. Unfortunately, heather gravel is already a waste mine, so we didn't dig up much. Wu Yang said, 1,000-leaf silver. Hee, you were able to dig up this kind of thing. Do you know what it is used for? Lei Xingfeng smiled bitterly and said, I'm not very sure. It should be a material that a true monarch can use. He guessed. Wu Yang said, 1,000-leaf silver is an excellent material. It can be used to refine a type of defensive ring. However, it requires a lot of quantity. To refine a defensive ring, you need at least 200 pieces of 1,000-leaf silver. The more powerful it is. It can only be refined with complete pieces of 1,000-leaf silver. Lei Xingfeng suddenly understood why broken pieces of 1,000-leaf silver were worthless. It turned out that it could only be used with complete pieces. Wu Yang said, Forget about the others. Xian Zhaoluan should be satisfied with the great Laha crystal. This thing is not bad. All right, what else did you find? Lei Xingfeng said, Bluetooth silk, red gold, yes, and purple crystal of the highest quality. Wu Yang said in surprise, Purple crystal of the highest quality. Chapter 190. Lei Xingfeng said, Yes, by chance, I found some purple crystals of the highest quality. Ha! I even used them to exchange for some good stuff. Wu Yang said, Quick, let me take a look. Lei Xingfeng took out a piece of the highest quality purple crystal. Among this group of people, he had the most purple crystals. Even if he used them to exchange for things, he still kept most of the purple crystals. Wu Yang examined it carefully and immediately showed a joyful expression. He said, How many more do you have? Do you have 10 pieces of the highest quality purple crystals? Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Yes, I got quite a lot." Wu Yong smiled and said, "Then take them out." Of course, Lei Xingfeng would not hide it. He did not know how powerful this extremely devilish-looking founder was. He could not wait to flatter him. So how could he not give it to him? Without hesitation, he took out 15 pieces of the highest quality purple crystals and said with a smile, "10 pieces should not be enough. I still have a lot. Founder, please keep them. If they are not enough, I will take them out again." Wu Yong could not help but put his hand on his forehead and said, "You are really generous. Do you know how precious these things are? I really don't know where you got so many of them." Lei Xingfeng said, "I fished them out from the lava. Ha, my luck was good, so I got quite a lot." Wu Yong looked at him deeply and said, "Yes, that's enough. You have been gone for so long, you must be tired. Go back and rest." Xi and Zhaoluan looked at Lei Xingfeng enviously. He knew in his heart that the founder must have left Lei Xingfeng in his heart. This was really rare. Everyone left, and their respective butlers came to pick them up. Lei Xingfeng's butler also came. Ishanel said with a smile, "I have already asked the car to stop at the door. Young master, please get in and go back." Lei Xingfeng got in the car, and Mad Eagle, Tiger Love, and Jean Daya followed. Jean Daya was shocked. After coming out of the secret door, he saw Wu Yong and knew that he was a big shot. Wu Yong only looked at him, and his whole body felt cold. He knew that this was the pressure brought about by the level. Even if it was just a little bit, it was already unbearable. Ishanel personally led them in front, and they soon arrived at Lei Xingfeng's residence. Lei Xingfeng introduced, "Ishanel, this is Jean Daya. He is my guard chief's salary, and give him the salary of a guard captain." Ishanel was secretly shocked. A guard captain was considered the top under Lei Xingfeng. He nodded and said, "Okay, wait a moment, I will do it." Lei Xingfeng said, "Oh, right, Uncle Ing and Uncle Tiger have both reached 9th ring, so they will also be treated as guards." Ishanel, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love were very familiar with each other, and hurriedly went up to congratulate them. They knew that the two had been stuck at 8th ring for a long time, and this promotion was definitely a joyous occasion. For guards like them, reaching 9th ring was basically the top. It was impossible for them to continue advancing, but they could enjoy the best treatment in Lei Xingfeng's residence. After returning to his room, Lei Xingfeng fell asleep immediately. This trip was very rewarding, but it was also very tiring. When he returned home, he felt very tired, so he planned to have a good sleep and then eat a full meal. He slept for 3 days and 3 nights. When Lei Xingfeng woke up, his entire mental state was different. He felt refreshed and felt that even if he were to fight against a monarch, he would be able to hold his own. Of course, he knew that this was an illusion. When he came to the dining room, the table was already filled with all kinds of dishes and a big pot of rice. Lei Xingfeng quickly called Jean Daya, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love. They were the 3 closest to him, so of course they had to eat together. Jean Daya smiled and said, "I have a distant son who loves good food. Hee, the food he cooks is much better than here." Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, can you find him? Bring him to me. Hee, I also like good food." "Oh, right, what is his name?" Jean Daya said, "Jean de Pang, hee. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He said, "What? Jean de Pang? Someone from Shirong land?" Jean Daya said in surprise, "You know him?" Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but smile. He said, "Of course I know him. Hee, when I was a mill wheel master. He followed us to Stellar Night Fortress." "Oh, let him come." Jean Daya said, "No problem, I will bring him here. He can't run that far. He already has 1 true ring body." Lei Xingfeng said while eating. You gave him Luan rings, right? Jean Dia nodded. Yes, it was a coincidence. I didn't know there was a junior like him in the family. I ate a meal he cooked, and it left a deep impression on me. So I gave him some Luan rings. With these Luan rings, he was lucky enough to advance to one true ring body. Lei Xingfeng thought of the people in Tiger Cliff Castle and wondered if he should bring some people into the hidden dimension. Life here was much better than in Tiger Cliff Castle. Life in Tiger Cliff was too difficult. Jean Dia said, after eating, I will go back. Lei Xingfeng said, I also want to go back. You can come with me. Uncle Ling and Uncle Tiger will come too. He was used to having Mad Eagle and Tiger Love by his side. If they weren't around, he wouldn't be used to it. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love agreed. After all, Lei Xingfeng was the young master. The two wouldn't refuse his orders. After eating, Lei Xingfeng called a sham and said, We are going out for a while. We will be back in about a month. Isham smiled. No problem. Bringing Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love, the four of them left the Luan Point. This was the first time Lei Xingfeng had returned since leaving Tiger Cliff Castle. Mad Eagle asked curiously, Where is this? Lei Xingfeng said, Baijia Village. It is under Hong Tong's influence. Tiger Love said, Hong Tong? Is it very powerful? Lei Xingfeng shook his head slightly. Previously, Hong Tong was a huge force to him. Now, it seemed like a small force. Any one of the four of them could easily destroy it. Thinking back to when Hong Chun brought his disciple, Yen, they almost destroyed the entire Tiger Cliff Castle. Now that he thought about it, they were no longer a threat. The two of them couldn't be compared at all. He realized that he had grown to a considerable height. Tiger Love saw Lei Xingfeng shake his head and immediately lost interest. Lei Xingfeng had a glimmer of hope. Maybe Yi would return to Tiger Cliff Castle. If he did, he wouldn't have to search everywhere. He didn't go to Hong Tong to find him. With Lei Xingfeng's current status, he didn't need to purposely curry favor with him. The four of them left Baijia Village and immediately flew up. Lei Xingfeng led the way in front. He was flying towards Tiger Cliff Castle. As expected, not long after, he saw Tiger Cliff Castle's cliffs. When he was living in Tiger Cliff Castle, he always felt that Baijia Village was a very distant place. But this time, Lei Xingfeng felt that it was very close. After flying for about 10 minutes, he sighed. When he was sitting on the cliffs of Tiger Cliff Castle, he was filled with fantasies about this world. Lei Xingfeng directly landed at the top of the cliff. There was a very small stone castle there. It was the place to enter and exit Tiger Cliff Castle, and the place where the basket was placed. There were people guarding it all year round. When Lei Xingfeng and the other three landed, the people in the stone castle cried out in surprise. They clearly saw people landing from the sky. Lei Xingfeng recognized the people in the stone castle at a glance. He smiled and said, Uncle Ku, Uncle Nanshan, why is it your turn to be on duty? His tone was very excited. He finally saw familiar people from his hometown. Uncle Ku and Ku Nanshan were on duty today. The two of them didn't dare to recognize Lei Xingfeng. After all, Lei Xingfeng had been gone for many years. Moreover, Lei Xingfeng had grown up. Whether it was his expression or appearance, he was very different from before. Especially now that Lei Xingfeng was a seventh ring sage, his temperament was completely different from when he was young. Ku Dashan and Ku Nanshan had helped Lei Xingfeng a lot, especially when Elder Thunderstorm was seriously injured. He had to take care of a young sister by himself. It was because of everyone's help that he was able to survive. Therefore, he couldn't forget the people from Tiger Cliff Castle. To be able to come back and see them again, Lei Xingfeng was very excited. Lei Xingfeng saw that the two of them were a little confused and suddenly realized that he had changed a lot. He said, "Kardashian, Uncle Nanshan, I'm a phone." Kardashian had a look of disbelief. He said, "A phone? Aya, you're a phone. You've changed a lot. A phone? You fell from the sky?" Kunanshan said, "A phone? It's really a phone. Haha, a phone is back." He had always been very good to Lei Xingfeng. Seeing Lei Xingfeng, who had left Tiger Cliff Castle for 7 or 8 years, he was very excited. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "I'm back." Kardashian smiled and blew the horn. It was to inform the people of Tiger Cliff Castle that an important guest had arrived. Lei Xingfeng heard the familiar sound of the horn. In an instant, he felt as if he had returned to his childhood, those extremely difficult years. The sound of the horn caused many people to walk out of their houses. They looked at the cliff and discussed. This kind of important guest rarely sounded. Once it was blown, it meant that a very important person had arrived. People formed groups and ran towards the cliff. Most of them were hunters of Tiger Cliff Castle and the chief of Tiger Cliff Castle, who sang you. In a short while, someone rushed to the top of the cliff and asked, "Who's here? Who's here?" Lei Xingfeng saw the person and couldn't help but smile. He said, "Uncle Shur, long time no see. I'm a phone." Kushur didn't dare to recognize him at first. It was mainly because Lei Xingfeng had changed too much. But when he saw the happy expressions on Ku Dashin and Ku Nanshan's faces, he immediately understood. This must be Lei Xingfeng. Back in the day, Ku Dashin, Ku Nanshan, himself, and Lei Xingfeng were part of a hunting group. "A phone, you're back. Haha, how have you been these years?" Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Yes, I've been very good. Uncle Shur, how have you been?" Kushur nodded and said, "I've been very good. I've been very good." At this time, more and more people came up. Lei Xingfeng saw more and more familiar faces. For example, Hu Daniu, Whitehead, Hu Xiaohu, Ku Dao, Hui, Husen, Ku Zijong, and other hunters. He even saw the white-haired chief, Hu Tsangyu. Chapter 191. Tiger Cliff Castle didn't have many visitors throughout the year. It was a very remote place, so Lei Xingfeng's return was a big deal. Everyone knew that Lei Xingfeng was a practitioner, which was the glory of Tiger Cliff Castle. A group of people escorted Lei Xingfeng back to his original courtyard. Lei Xingfeng already knew that Yi didn't come back. He was very disappointed, but after thinking about it, he understood that Yi probably wouldn't come back. Once he recovered his power, there was no point in coming back. Sangyu said, "A phone. After you left, we've been helping to tidy up your house. Ha, take a look yourself. If you're missing anything, let me know. We'll all help." A phone. How long do you plan to stay?" He knew that Lei Xingfeng wouldn't stay in Tiger Cliff Castle, but he hoped that Lei Xingfeng would come back often. Lei Xingfeng laughed. "Old man, I just came back to visit. I'll stay for a few days, and then leave." Sangyu said, "Is that so? It's hunting season now. Too bad. You can't stay longer." Lei Xingfeng said, "Hunting season is here? All right, I'll stay for a few more days. Uncle Ke, this time I'll be in a team with you. How about it? Oh, right, there are 4 of us here." Uncle Ke laughed and said, "That's the best. You used to be able to bring all the hunters in the castle. This time you can bring more people. Ha." Of course, he knew that Lei Xingfeng was strong, but he didn't know how strong Lei Xingfeng was now. Sangyu's eyes lit up. If Lei Xingfeng was willing to bring all the hunters in Tiger Cliff Castle, then this year's food wouldn't be a problem. Thinking of the bull hunt in the past, he said, "Yes, yes. A phone, lead the team. All the hunters will follow. Is that okay?" He looked at Lei Xingfeng expectantly. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Okay, then please tell everyone that tomorrow I'll bring all the hunters in the castle." Ha ha. He also wanted to help the hunters in Tiger Cliff Castle. Sangyu was overjoyed. He said, "That's great. With a Feng in the team, this year's hunt will definitely be more. This way, winter will be easier." The hunters' faces were also filled with joy. Xian Feng's fame was rather big. He had commanded large-scale hunts before, so this time no one doubted his decision. Under Sanyu's command, many hunters brought in large amounts of meat. Ku Dashin and the others set up a large pot in the courtyard and started cooking. All the famous hunters in Tiger Cliff Castle came to welcome Lei Xingfeng back. They used this as an excuse to treat Lei Xingfeng and the others to a meal. Jean Dia was touched. He said, "The people of Tiger Cliff are very good." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "When I was young, I relied on everyone's help to not starve to death." Ha ha. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love were both surprised. Lei Xingfeng had never talked about his childhood. The residents of Tiger Cliff Castle were very careful when it came to eating. Every family took out meat, dried vegetables, and fresh vegetables. A few large pots cooked together, and in a short time, the whole courtyard was filled with a thick fragrance. Many children ran around the courtyard looking very excited. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Uncle Nanshan, did you prepare enough food for last winter?" Kun Nanshan smiled. "Last year was pretty good. The hunters from Lead Eagle didn't dare to come, so our hunting area became a little bigger. But the barbarians often appeared and injured a few of our hunters. Luckily, they all kept their lives." Lei Xingfeng said, "Could it be that a barbarian tribe moved here?" Ku Dashin said, "We're worried about that too. If a barbarian tribe moved here, we might not feel it at first, but after a long time, when the barbarians' descendants grow up, we'll be in trouble. We'll have to invite the experts from Hong Kong to wipe them out. We don't even know how much it'll cost." Sangyu said, "Don't we have Feng?" I remember back then, the people of Hong Kong promised that everything within 100 li of Tiger Cliff Castle would be ours. Kushur said, "At first, they helped a little, but then they didn't pay much attention. In recent years, there hasn't even been a shadow." Lei Xingfeng knew in his heart that no power would work for free. At first, it was because of Elder Thunderstorm, but when Elder Thunderstorm didn't appear, they didn't pay much attention to Tiger Cliff Castle. Gradually, they stopped paying attention. He smiled. "Flowers don't bloom for 100 days. It's normal." "Oh, right, the people from Lead Eagle," Sangyu smiled. "The people from Lead Eagle have all moved away. There's no one living in Lead Eagle anymore." Lei Xingfeng immediately understood. Hong Kong probably pressured Lead Eagle. Luckily, the barbarian gathering continent didn't lack anything but land. Therefore, the people of Lead Eagle didn't lack the wilderness. As long as they invited the Luan masters from Hong Kong, clearing a piece of land would be easy. Sangyu asked, "Do we need to bring people to transport tomorrow?" Lei Xingfeng smiled and shook his head. He had the hidden Luan space, so he didn't need to work hard to bring back prey. He said, "No need. We have our own way of transporting prey. We don't need too many hunters going tomorrow. Let the best hunters go. The rest can prepare at home. We'll need their help when we bring back the prey." Sangyu scratched his head. He didn't understand Xian Feng's words, but he had a lot of experience, so he didn't continue asking. Instead, he said straightforwardly, "Okay, tomorrow I'll prepare a 20-man hunting team. How about that?" Lei Xingfeng nodded. 20 people is enough. He didn't plan to let the hunters go. With him and the 3 guards, there was no need to worry about the prey. After a night of silence, the next morning, 20 hunters came to the door of the courtyard. They were all the most elite hunters of Tiger Cliff Castle. Lei Xingfeng brought Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love out of the courtyard. Looking at Ku Dashin and the rest of the hunters, he smiled. Ku Dashin, you don't need to bring the basket. We have a way to carry the prey. Ku Dashin and the rest already knew about the magic of practitioners. However, they didn't know how to carry the prey. Since Lei Xingfeng said they didn't need to bring the basket, they simply left the basket in the courtyard and followed Lei Xingfeng with their spears and arrows. Sitting on the hanging basket, Lei Xingfeng and the rest didn't show off. They just sat on the hanging basket and went down. In fact, they could fly. Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go to the meadow. Hee, I want to hunt bulls." He always remembered the taste of bull meat. Unfortunately, after leaving the barbarian gathering continent, he couldn't find any more. This time, he planned to stock up on bull meat. Of course, it couldn't be fresh meat. It had to be marinated and dried to preserve for a long time. In Tiger Cliff Castle, bulls were the top meat. Even the best hunters had a hard time eating them because they were really hard to hunt. Their skin was rough and their meat was thick. They also lived in herds. Without a certain level of skill, no one dared to hunt bulls. In the mountains of the barbarian gathering continent, only the barbarians dared to hunt bulls. Normal hunters were still a bit lacking. This time, Lei Xingfeng wanted to go to a meadow. That was where the bulls lived. Mad Eagle said, "A foam, let me hunt this time." Hee. Lei Xingfeng said, "You guys don't have to do it. I'm enough. If you guys do it, I think all the prey will be crushed." One had to know that every part of a bull was a treasure. Other than the meat, the most precious part of a bull was its skin. It was the best material for leather armor. In the mountains, it was even used as currency. It could be exchanged for many things. A complete bull skin was especially valuable. Mad Eagle laughed. "All right, you have the final say." Lei Xingfeng discussed with Ku Dashin and the rest. He decided to do it himself. He only told the other hunters to be on guard and sent out scouts. As for Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love, they were the defensive force. They weren't guarding against wild beasts but barbarians. Once the barbarians were discovered, Lei Xingfeng was prepared to wipe them out completely. This would give Tiger Cliff a good hunting environment. Entering the familiar forest, Lei Xingfeng felt very familiar. Every blade of grass and every tree here was something he had seen since he was young. However, Lei Xingfeng was no longer a child. He had grown into a seventh ring sage. In this world, he was considered a powerful expert. Lei Xingfeng had many steel spears in his hidden Luin space. Many of them were obtained from Tiger Cliff Castle, while others were bought from other places. Lei Xingfeng took out a steel spear and a black bow. After thinking about it, he put the black bow away. To him, the black bow wasn't very useful. He didn't think its attack power was enough, so he put it away. Soon, the group of hunters arrived at the meadow. They could already see a herd of bulls leisurely grazing on the grass. Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Ku, let everyone be on guard in the trees." Ku Dashin nodded and immediately ordered the hunters to climb up the trees. Lei Xingfeng whispered, "Uncle Jean, Uncle Ling, Uncle Tiger, you guys go up the trees too. Protect them. I'll go in and kill the bulls." Jean Dia stared at the bulls not far away. He was very experienced and said, "These bulls are not bad. They have a huge body. The meat on their bodies can be cut into 1,000 jean. Hee, I'm going up the trees." He jumped up and directly flew up the trees. Mad Eagle and Tiger Love also flew up the trees. The three of them tacitly formed a triangle just enough to protect all the hunters. Lei Xingfeng held his spear and swaggered towards the meadow. Ku Dashin said in shock, "What is a foam trying to do? This is too dangerous." Chapter 192. Kudashan was shocked, but Kunanshan was very calm. He said, "Don't worry. Let's see what a Fong will do. I don't think a Fong is a reckless person." The other hunters were also stunned as they looked at Lei Xingfeng. They saw that he didn't even try to dodge. Instead, he swaggered towards the herd of bulls. It must be known that bulls were very sensitive. They had a deep hostility towards any moving object. Even barbarians had to avoid the bull's charge and trample. Hudaniu was on a big tree. He said, "Kudao, isn't a Fong too careless? If he walks over like this, he won't be attacked by the bulls." Kudao said, "I also don't know why a Fong is like this. Daniu, we'll know if we keep watching." Just when the hunters were worried, a herd of bulls began to charge towards Lei Xingfeng. This was a herd of 70 to 80 bulls. Among them, there were 20 strong bulls. The rest were calves and cows. Once the herd of bulls charged, the momentum would definitely be very frightening. The rumbling sound of hooves sounded. The hunters on the tree all turned pale as they looked at Lei Xingfeng, who was standing alone. Kudashan grabbed a branch with his hand. His fingers turned white as he whispered, "How can it be like this? A Fong. Quickly dodge." "Hey!" Lei Xingfeng stood steadily. He stared at the herd of bulls. Suddenly, he raised his arm and threw out the steel spear in his hand. Whoosh! The steel spear was like a sharp arrow, shooting straight towards the leading bull. The steel spear was so fast that it only left behind an afterimage. In an instant, the spear pierced through the bull's forehead. More than half of the steel spear pierced through the bull's stomach, leaving only a foot-long shaft outside. The bull continued to charge forward a few steps before it fell to the ground with a loud bang. After shooting out the first spear, another one suddenly appeared in Exine Feng's hand, and he shot it out again. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than 10 whistling sounds could be heard as Lei Xingfeng threw out more than 10 steel spears in one breath. Then the sound of people falling to the ground could be heard. Kudashan opened his mouth wide. He had never thought that this would happen. Every spear pierced a barbarian bull to death. In just a few breaths of time, more than a dozen barbarian bulls had fallen to the ground. The barbarian bulls that followed behind were immediately tripped. Lei Xingfeng did not stop. Spears flew out one after another, each spear taking down a barbarian bull. In just a few minutes, the entire herd of barbarian bulls had fallen. The hunters on the tree were all dumbfounded. They had never seen such a ferocious slaughter. This was not a hunt, this was a massacre. The barbarian bull was no threat to Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng came to the herd of barbarian bulls and pulled out the spears one by one. Then he put the corpses of the barbarian bulls into his hidden Luan space. In just a quarter of an hour, all the barbarian bulls on the ground had disappeared. There were a total of 76 barbarian bulls. There were 14 baby barbarian bulls, 21 majestic barbarian bulls, and the rest were female barbarian bulls. Lei Xingfeng planned to hunt 2 more herds of barbarian bulls. He did not have the intention to kill them all. All the hunters were shocked by Lei Xingfeng's crazy slaughter. A herd of barbarian bulls. In less than a minute, they were all killed. How strong must he be? It was 2F * King Scary. If he wanted to kill, no one would be able to stop him. Lei Xingfeng slowly walked towards another herd of barbarian bulls. This was a larger herd with more than 100 barbarian bulls. The herd of barbarian bulls quickly discovered Lei Xingfeng and immediately let out threatening cries. Lei Xingfeng ignored them, and a spear appeared in his hand. Suddenly, the rumbling of hooves could be heard. About 30 barbarian bulls charged towards Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng raised his hand and shot out spears. One after another appeared in his hand. The sound of the spears breaking through the air could be heard again, without any suspense. In less than 3 minutes, the herd of barbarian bulls were all killed. Not a single barbarian bull could escape. This was the difference between a practitioner and a normal person. A normal person could not kill barbarian bulls like this, nor could they kill so many barbarian bulls. A practitioner, on the other hand, could kill these barbarian bulls effortlessly. The hunters in the trees began to feel numb. However, they were secretly happy. Once they brought back so many barbarian bulls, there would be meat for the entire winter. There was also so much barbarian bull hides. This time, Tiger Cliff Castle was going to be rich. After killing 2 herds of barbarian bulls, Lei Xingfeng stopped. There were many barbarian bulls living in this grassland. There were at least a few thousand of them. Killing 200 barbarian bulls was nothing. Leaving 100 barbarian bulls and hides for Tiger Cliff Castle would be enough for them to survive the winter. Lei Xingfeng pulled out his spear and put the corpses into his hidden Luan space. Then he walked back and said, "All right, there are enough barbarian bulls. Uncle Ko, let everyone scout. I want to find the barbarian tribe's gathering place." Uncle Ko looked at Lei Xingfeng with a strange expression. Was this still the lively youth from before? He sighed inwardly and said, "All right, I'll organize it." As he said that, he whistled and the hunters came down from the trees. Everyone who saw Lei Xingfeng had a look of respect. To be able to hunt like this person was definitely strong. Hunters always had respect for strong people. When they knew that Lei Xingfeng wanted to clear out the barbarians, the hunters cheered. The hunters in the mountains all knew that the most dangerous thing in the forest was not the large beasts but the barbarians. Because the barbarians were intelligent and strong, they liked to hunt humans. This was a necessary process for them to show their bravery. If the barbarians did not hunt humans, they were not considered warriors. Many of the hunters in Tiger Cliff Castle had died in the hands of the barbarians. Therefore, when Ku Dashin ordered to search for the barbarian tribe, no one would back down. They immediately spread out and entered the forest. Of course, they also formed small groups to search for the barbarian tribe. Jean Dia laughed. "Afong, you scared them." Mad Eagle said, "It's normal. If they could still be calm, then there would be a problem." Hee hee. Tiger Love asked, "Afong, barbarians, what are they?" Lei Xingfeng said, "The natives here hunt hunters for glory." Tiger Love was shocked. "There are natives like that? Are there no practitioners here?" Lei Xingfeng said, "There are. How could there not be? It's just that there aren't any high-level practitioners here. At most, there are 3rd or 4th ring sages. These people are all controllers, so they won't go to the mountains to kill the barbarian tribe. As for those low-level Wan Luan Shur and Mill Wheel Masters, they might be able to kill a lot of barbarians, but it's impossible for them to exterminate the barbarians." Tiger Love said, "If it was our hometown, we would have exterminated the barbarians a long time ago." Lei Xingfeng said, "This is a remote mountain area. There aren't many people here. Even if hunters were killed, who would know if they weren't locals?" Mad Eagle said, "What do you plan to do?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't care. I just want to clean up the area around Tiger Cliff so that the barbarians won't dare to come here. As for the rest, I don't care." Mad Eagle nodded. "Yes, that's good. Although it won't solve the root of the problem, at least it will make our hometown safer." Lei Xingfeng laughed. "Yes, I have some feelings for my hometown. Hee hee." Mad Eagle said, "Hee hee, consider it as giving back to your hometown. Good thing you don't have a big family, or else, hee hee, you'll be even busier." Lei Xingfeng laughed bitterly. "If I had a big family, it would be different. Too bad. I can't even find little sister. Ah ye." He never mentioned his parents and never met them. so he didn't have any feelings for them. Mad Eagle comforted him. You'll find them. They're not normal people. Lei Xingfeng nodded. Yes, I'll find them. In the evening, the hunters honked and gathered. They came to the treehouse beside the pond. It was a resting place for the hunters of Tiger Cliff Castle. It was also a hunting ground. Lei Xingfeng asked, Did you find them? The hunters all shook their heads. They didn't find the barbarians' gathering place. Lei Xingfeng didn't find it strange. The mountain area was too big. With only 20 people, they couldn't have gone far. If they found the barbarians, then they were lucky. It was normal that they couldn't find them. Lei Xingfeng laughed. It's okay. Let's rest tonight. Tomorrow, the 4 of us will search. Hee, we'll definitely find the barbarians' gathering place. He was very confident. This confidence was built on the fact that the 4 of them could fly. Once they could fly, their scouting range would be very wide. If the barbarians had a tribe, they wouldn't be able to hide it. Taking out a wild bull, Dashan and his men began to skin it and boil water to prepare for dinner. There were more than 20 of them, and all of them were strong men. It was more than enough for them to eat a bull and some other small game. While these hunters were searching for barbarians, they also hunted some small animals such as wild rabbits and pheasants. He also hunted 2 precious lambs. These things were delicious. The precious lambs were very small, at most 20 to 30 gene of meat. However, even in Tiger Cliff Castle, precious lambs were still good food. A big pot was set up. Someone picked up a large pile of dead trees. Lei Xingfeng specially took out a few oil trees and put them under the pile of firewood. The hunters were all experts in cooking. Some of them found wild vegetables and mushrooms and cooked them with the barbarian beef. Large amounts of rock salt were sprinkled into the pot. All kinds of wild vegetables and fresh mushrooms were added into the pot. When the water boiled, the aroma was already coming out. In fact, cooking in the wild was a very dangerous thing. It would attract strong beasts. However, with Lei Xingfeng and the other 3, the hunters didn't care too much. Any hunter would know how to cook a mixed stew. It was all kinds of meat, wild vegetables, mushrooms, bamboo shoots, and a few handfuls of rock salt. It was an exceptional delicacy because it was the freshest meat and the freshest vegetables. Only then could it be cooked into the best mixed stew. Some people even added in some salted meat for flavor. This was the conclusion of their experience. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.